Narayana namaskrityam naranchayva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire Shrinatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanam Hridayantastu Abhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. Nice to see all of you. Before we start, again, like those who have their cameras off, if you can turn it on, that'd be very nice. And you can actively participate in our readings and discussions. And also, I would like to welcome, there's one devotee who's joining us. She's joined late to the Bhakti Vaibhav, but she's going to be a part of our Bhakti Vaibhav. Her name is Kaushalya Mataji. See the name Kundan Upadhyay. So she's joining from Chicago. So she'll be there. Okay. So welcome Mataji. So welcome everyone. So let's get started. We're going to go a quick round and everyone can share. We said this time, maybe if you would like to share one question from the 6th chapter reading. And if you could not think of a question, then you can also share one quick point from the chapter 6 reading. Okay, so let's go. Let's start.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the chapter 6, short answer questions. The question 5th is asking, what was Narad's material taint?
Yes, very nice, Mati. I was thinking of discussing that during the class. Thank you. Okay, next. Let's quickly go through. 10 seconds.
Yeah, I have put the question in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so someone else can go through. I'll just read.
So I had a question while reading text 21. It says how to get free from the mode of goodness.
How to get free from mode of goodness? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, let's see. I'm not giving the answer right now, but keeping in mind, I will cover during the when we discuss. And even after the verse, if I'm not covered, then please you can again point.
Yeah. Prabhu, I had a question about text 13. It's a long one, but here in the purport, Prabhupada says that one may, sit down at some holy place and devote his whole time and energy to hear and repeatedly chant the holy scriptures by the great acharyas, like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Said we may there is no need to imitate Vrajakacharya like Narada or Lord Chaitanya. So yeah, my question was we also say that we have to preach and all, but
very nice.
Yeah,
so I was expecting this question, so it's very nice you brought it up. Thank you. Okay, next. So Mataji Vijay Radhakya Mataji's question, mainly I'll just read the last part. Why does the Lord show special mercy and favor one devotee over the other? Is the Lord actually partial? Right, so that comes to that point. Next, let's see.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Yeah. Prabhuji, we like the point that text 22, the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from material desires. We really like that, Prabhu. Yeah.
That's very nice point. Thank you.
Thank you. And all the questions other Prabhujis and Matajis are having, we have the same questions. What is Narada's material tamed? And all
yes.
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead. You can...
In last class, I like the point the spiritual master gave both confidence as well as humility.
Nice, very nice. Confidence and humility. Yes, very good. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have the same. It looks like so many of us have a same question that Narada stated.
Yes, yes. Very nice. Okay. Next.
Hare Krishna. I have the question from text 26, where in the purport Prabhupada says that devotees have no desire for material gain. They're conducted by one single desire to go back to Godhead. And I just was wondering if you could explain more about, like, does a devotee desire to go back to God? Is that his singular aim? Or, because sometimes people say the devotees want to come back birth after birth to preach. So that, if you could explain that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next, let's see. Vashamati, you can tell in Mataji. Those who have not spoken, please. Mantri Mata.
Also had the same question, Prabhu, about the material intent, but there is another question which I didn't find the answers is when did Sri Narad Muni met with the Bhakti Vedantas? That is not in the fourth verse.
Your voice is a little bit not so clear. Can you say that again?
Voice is not there, Prabhu.
Oh, your voice is not there. Oh, sorry. Okay.
So it is said in the closed book small questions, when did Sri Narad Muni met with the Bhakti Vedantas?
Yeah.
And the four number verse is being referred, but the answer is not there in the 4.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Vashamati. Mata, we cannot hear you. I think something with your mic.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yes, please.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I also have same question that material taint.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead. Ruinan.
Yeah. So Prabhu, in text 20, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, it is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotional service.
Yes.
So I don't know what that probationary stage of regulative devotional service is. So that was my question.
Okay. Good. These are all nice points. These are the points, like, particularly mark them and so we'll discuss these points. So very nice you're bringing them up. Anyone else?
I have one more question, Prabhu. From the reading, I was thinking whether Naradji is a Shakti avatar or he got that stage after performing that devotional service.
Okay. So thank you also so much for your questions. Really nice questions. I was hoping that these questions would come up. So it's very nice. So that shows that you have done your part of reading. So let's start without further delay. So we are in chapter 6 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to do a quick review of chapter 5 and then we'll move on to chapter 6. Right. So chapter 5 it started off with Narad Muni actually arriving at the ashram of Vyasdev, and immediately, like, Narad Muni, he had a seat, and then the first thing he actually said is he brought up the point that Vyasdev, are you satisfied with identifying the body and the mind as objects of sense sense gratification, right? Of focus, right? And immediately he brought up that point, right? And then he actually, like how Gagandeep Prabhu made the point that the two things spiritual master gives the confidence and the humility. So he chastises Vyasdev, then he actually praises the work of Vyasdev. And he actually says, well, actually your Mahabharata and the Brahma Sutras, what you're compiling, are actually very nice. But still, why are you not satisfied? Right? And then Vyasdev actually, he expresses his faith in the Guru, and he says, like, Narad Muni, you yourself are like the sun or like the air. Why? Because they are all pervasive. And similarly, like the super soul in the heart, you know why I'm dissatisfied. So you please tell me. Right? And then Narad Muni comes right to the point, and he gives like a heavy chastisement, and he says that you have not actually broadcast the Amala Yashaha. Amala, the spotless glories of the Supreme Personality of God. It is there, but you have actually put it within the 4 Purusharthas, right? And you have not actually exclusively glorified the Supreme Personality of God. Then the 2 famous verses, Na Yad Vajas Chitra Padam Hare Yasho, and then the other one is Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplava, comparing the composition of the Vyasadeva to the composition which he should write, which is Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplava Yasmin Prati Shloka Abadhyavatami. Every word, if you glorify, is actually completely dedicated to glorification of the Supreme Personality of God, then that is a completely different creation, right? Okay, it can actually bring a revolution in the life of the misdirected civilization, right? And then he also pointed out that anything that's not glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a place of pilgrimage for the crows. So if you remember last time, that image of a crow versus the image of a swan. So what do we want to be? Right? Okay. And then also further, Narad Muni made the point that people are naturally inclined to enjoy sense gratification, and then you have actually encouraged them in that way. So people will use your shastra and said, Vyasadeva said it is okay, hence we can do it, right? And Narad Muni said, but this entire thing is jugupsitam, right? This is actually condemned. He uses the word jugupsitam and then he uses the word vyatikramaha. These are actually condemned. Don't do these things, right? This is just going to bewilder the people of Kali Yuga. Right? Okay, hence focus completely on the pure devotional service. And what is the formula that Narad Muni gave? That yes, people in Kali Yuga, yes, they are, they are manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita, but there will be people who are vichakshana, which means what? They are expert, and they will understand that this message of the pure message of Krishna, that is the only thing that will give complete satisfaction to the self, right? And all the other people seeing this vichakshanas or the expert people will actually follow in footsteps of them, and they will take up to the path of pure devotional service, right? So that is the formula Narad Muni has given. And then after that, in 3 verses, he actually makes the point tapta sadharmam charnam bhujam harer, and then taseva hetu prayateta kovida. And bhakti, anything you do in bhakti, that is your permanent asset. That will never be lost. So even if you're thinking that people in Kali Yuga, they will take bhakti, then will they really continue? Don't worry about that, because even little bit progress in bhakti is your eternal credit. Okay. And then Narad Muni gives his own personal example. And we are actually, this chapter is going to continue that story with more details, right? So what was Narad Muni's own example? He actually said that how he was the son of a maid servant, and then how he got this opportunity to serve the Bhakti Vedantas. And then in that, we went through all the stages of devotional service, starting from Mahat Seva, right? Mercy of devotees, first actually Kripa, then mercy of devotees, right? So, mercy of devotees, then service to the devotees, then Shraddha, then Guru Padashraya, then Bhajana, Bhakti, Bhajana Spriheshu, like the desire to worship, then Bhakti, then Anartha Vritti, then Nishta, then Ruchi, then Ashakti, then Bhav, and then Prem. Up to the stage of Prem, we already discussed, right? And then Narad Muni actually made the point that I constantly heard the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then by that I developed Prem. So he went all the way to the stage of Prem, and that was already discussed, right? And then in text 30 of the previous, he said that when they were leaving, they actually instructed me in the most confidential subject matter, right? And that point is actually leading on to chapter 6, where Vyasadeva is going to ask the question. Okay, they left and they gave you knowledge. What do you do after that? Okay, so that will be it. And then the final section is of the previous chapter, how Narad Muni is actually saying that how one can actually dedicate one's work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and through that, how one can actually come to the point of always remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead while we are doing whatever we are doing, and in that way we can come to a stage of pure devotional service, right? And okay, chapter 5. So now chapter 6, right? So based on Narad Muni making the point that after the Bhakti, when the Bhakti Vedantas were leaving, they actually gave me that confidential knowledge. Based on that, this chapter is started. Okay. So text 1.
Sutta uvacha evam nishamya bhagavan devarshir janma karmacha bhuya paprachatam brahman vyasa satyavati sutaha.
You have the list? Okay, you have the list, the reading list. So it starts with Domi. So everyone please see the list and see the person who is before you, right? So just remember the person who's before you. So when they read, then you can just follow, right? So we start off with Domi. Domi, you like to start?
I'm so sorry. We're reading chapter 6, right?
Chapter 6, text 1, translation.
Text 1. Okay. Sutta said, Sutta said, O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows.
Right, so here Vyasadeva is described Bhagavan and Satyavati Sutta. Bhagavan means he's an incarnation of Krishna himself. Vyasadeva is the empowered incarnation of Krishna, literally incarnation of Krishna, and the son of Satyavati. He heard this entire Narad Muni's birth and activity, and then he actually inquired, right? So the entire Bhagavatam is actually based on conversation, inquiry, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. This goes on between all the conversations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the more attentively we hear, actually in the previous chapter, the point was made, the more taste we have for hearing Krishna Katha, the more attentively we are going to hear, right? As we are developing our taste, our attentiveness increases. And the more attentive we are, the more we are inquisitive to know more, right? That, oh, Narad Muni said this, but what happened then? What happened then? And we see that inquisitiveness in the hearers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva was inquisitive to know more. Okay, text 2.
Text 2. Vyasa uvacha bhikshubhir vipravasite vijnanadeshtribhistava vartamano vayasyadye tata kim akarod bhavan.
So the first question. So there are 4 questions that Vyasadeva asked Narad Muni, right? What is the first question? Okay, translation.
Shri Vyasa said, what did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in the scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth?
Yes. So this is the first question. So if you see text 30 of the previous chapter, Narad Muni made the same point, right? And that before leaving, they gave him, so they gave me that same scientific transcendent knowledge, which actually translated here as Vijnana, scientific knowledge in transcendent. They gave me that Vijnana. And then here Vyasa is asking, so after they left, what did you do? Right? Yeah. So Prabhupada actually makes a point in the purport that it is natural to know that after Narad Muni received initiation, what did he do? So initiation is wonderful, right? Initiation is a very important step in our spiritual life. But what did we do after initiation is even more important. Why? Because after initiation, what is initiation? Initiation means start. It is the start of the spiritual journey. So when you're formally starting the spiritual journey, and when you take up the process given by the Guru seriously, then what happens? Then we face our anarthas, right? We face all our anarthas in our heart. And then that battle that we have between our sadhana and our anarthas, and then like our challenges that you are facing in bhakti, that is what is actually Vyasadeva wants to hear. Because why? When you hear of those challenges, then we say, oh, those are the challenges. Oh, this person, this is how he faced it. And this is how I can actually overcome the similar challenges. Actually, one way if we see the general anarthas that we all have is the same thing, right? And we all have to face those anarthas. And hence, when we hear of the journey of devotees who are going through their sadhana, overcoming the anarthas, we can actually follow their footsteps and then overcome those anarthas. Right? So here is actually asking, after initiation, what did they do, right? And because initiation, as I said, is starting of the journey of transformation. So we want to see how that transformation is happening from the stage of a conditioned soul all the way to perfect transcendence. Right? So that's what Vyasadeva wants to know. Okay. Prabhupada in the purport says, this is actually Sadharma Pricha. Right? Sadharma Pricha means the desire to inquire from the spiritual master. And this is the essential aspect of progressing in spiritual life. The essential aspect of progressing in spiritual life means we should have the desire to inquire from the Guru. And we can actually ask the Guru, like Chakravarti Pad actually makes a point in the purport that a disciple, he can go to the Guru and ask, I am your disciple and I want to know more about you. Like just like Prabhupada, right? We hear about Prabhupada's life, his story, and how like Prabhupada, like, he was very transparent about his life. Like normally he did not talk so much about his previous life, but then when disciples were curious, oh, what happened? What did you do? And Prabhupada actually talked about this, like how he got married, and then how he actually, he very transparently says that how his wife was not favorable to bhakti, and how he actually thought that I would marry again, but then his father said, oh, that's not a good idea. And then so Prabhupada was so transparent. But how do we know these things about Prabhupada? Because the disciples were inquisitive to know about Prabhupada. And when we know the challenges that a devotee has faced, that actually glorifies the spiritual master so much. When we understand how many challenges Prabhupada actually faced to come to America, going through like the story of Jhansi, and how in Delhi, like he used to walk all the way to the printing press in the hot sun, sit there, and he used to not take the, he used to walk all the way in the hot sun just to save that annas, that's insignificant money. He used to, just to save that, he used to walk all the way, be there in the morning at the printing press, see how the printing is going on, every aspect, right? Also how that story where Prabhupada was distributing the Back to Godhead magazines in the hot Delhi hot summer, and then how he had the heat stroke and then he fainted in the road. When we know all these things about the spiritual master, then we actually develop that appreciation, and we know, oh, Prabhupada went through all this journey. These are the challenges, right? And this is how he overcome them. And that's how we can actually learn and overcome the challenges that we face in our spiritual life. Right? So a desire to inquire from the Guru is an essential factor to progress in our spiritual life. And entire Bhagavata is questions and answers, the desire to know, right? So Sad Dharma Pricha, right? So the last words of the purport. This process is technically known as Sad Dharma Pricha. Okay, text 3.
Swayam bhuvakaya britya vartitam te paramvayah katam chedam udasrakshi kale prapte kalevaram.
O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation, and how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course?
Okay, so question 1 is, what did Narad Muni do after the Bhakti Vedantas gave him the Vigyan and left? Question number 2, how did you pass your life after initiation? Right, so that word param is there. After initiation, how did you pass your life? And that's the point I was actually saying. And then how did you attain this body, having quit your old body in due course? So we know how Narad Muni, he was son of a maidservant, but here when Narad Muni is talking to Vyasdev, he has the completely spiritual transcendental body. So how did you actually get this, this completely spiritual transcendental body from that previous body, which was the son of a maidservant? So question 2 and question 3 are this in these verses, right? So the journey from the maidservant's body to the spiritual body, right? That's what Vyasdev is actually asking. Now it's very wonderful that so we read in the discussing text number 2 how the disciple is inquisitive to know about the life of the Guru, right? And we see how in the like even Bhagavatam, as we take as an example, how these elevated devotees are not shy about sharing about their own life. Like if you consider here itself, Vyasadeva, right? Vyasadeva is the author of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. But what is he actually saying in the starting of Srimad Bhagavatam? How he was chastised by his own Guru Maharaj. Like like normally you wouldn't say, like if the Guru Maharaj chastises you, you'll be like, okay, I'm not going to say, like that actually shows what is my faults, right? But Vyasadeva, who's the author of the Bhagavatam, is actually saying, this is my mistake and this is how I was chastised by my Guru Maharaj. So Bhagavatam is actually starting off by the mistake of the author, and still we are studying the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So these devotees are not shy to actually speak about their own faults, because by hearing those faults, by learning from those faults, we can actually progress in our spiritual life. What to talk of Vyasadeva, Narad Muni himself, like further in Srimad Bhagavatam, we actually come to know why Narad Muni was born as a son of a maidservant. Right? I think you know the story, that how Narad Muni was one of the residents of Gandharva Loka, right? And his name was Upabrahman. So this Upabharan, right? Upabharan. This Gandharva Upabharan, he was actually very beautiful, right? Very beautiful, nice body and everything. And he was so beautiful that all women were actually attracted to him. And because of that, he was also very lusty. So once there was this assembly in Gandharva Lok where they actually invited different Gandharvas and other personalities, demigods, to come and glorify the Supreme Personality of God. So Narad and Upabharan in the Gandharva in the previous lifetime, he was so lusty that he came to that assembly with his girlfriends. So actually in the purport it actually said, this comes in the 7th canto towards the end, I think chapter 15, like around that part, where it's actually said that Narad Muni himself is saying, Narad Muni himself is declaring that actually he's speaking that to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Right? He says that I actually went there with my girlfriends. And in the purport it said that is the first offense that he did. And second offense that he did, that in that assembly, because he was with his girlfriends, he had started singing cinema songs. Like Prabhupada says that point in the purport, he was singing cinema songs. And then that was the second offense that he made. And when all the other personalities saw this Gandharva, then they cursed him. You become a Shudra. And hence he was born as a son of a maid son. So see the point that Narad Muni is not shy in saying that how he was lusty, how he actually made these offenses. Right? So why are these great personalities? And then we read about, Parikshit Maharaj. He actually went and he is actually the hearer of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And the entire first canto, we'll see here so much glorification of Parikshit Maharaj. But how does the canto end? With a mistake that Parikshit. So why are these exalted personalities sharing their mistakes? Why are they not shy to speak about it? And finally it is there in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam for everyone to read. Why? Because one, they are actually so transparent, so simple-hearted. They say, oh yeah, this was a mistake. This is how I actually overcame the mistake. So the first point is actually through their mistakes, they are pointing out the glory of bhakti. That in spite of any kind of fall downs, they actually stuck on with the association of devotees. They actually still took shelter of the devotees, right? How they actually saw, okay, so let's keep that as the first point, that how they were not discouraged in their fall down and they actually continued the process of bhakti, and how the process of bhakti is so powerful that in spite of all those challenges, they actually attain perfection. So first point to actually we learn from that is, they are not discouraged that, okay, fall down happened, they made a mistake, but they continue. Second point is actually, they have no false ego. Like if you have any false ego, you will not share your mistakes. They have no false ego. They are actually thinking, by my sharing, other people will get benefited. So thinking about the benefit of other people, they are actually sharing. Right? A spiritual master may actually say, oh, I did this and this, and this was my mistake. Not so that the disciple, oh, if he hears my mistake, then what will he think about it? No, he's just openly sharing because he wants a disciple to learn. Be careful that, okay, this was a mistake. This is how I actually overcame it. What? This is the danger. This is how Maya will attack you. Be careful of these things. Right? So that is the second point, is they have no false ego. Third point is we learn that, okay, these are the ways that Maya attacks. These are the mistakes one can actually make, right? Pride, attraction to the opposite sex, or how senses are so strong. So third point is, what do we learn from those mistakes, right? Fourth point, this is actually there in the third canto. Third canto, there's an entire story of Brahma, right? How Brahma actually, he was attracted to his own daughter, Vak. Imagine Brahma, the head of our sampradaya, he's attracted to his daughter, right? So point number 4, right? Point number 4 is, when we see mistakes of these great personalities, we still discriminate and we say like, okay, they made a mistake, it's a mistake. We don't say that, we don't justify that, oh, if that person did, so if I do it, it's okay. We don't do that, right? So that's one point Prabhupada makes in purpose, comes later in that section. Right? So we still discriminate. A mistake is a mistake, right? Don't justify the mistake. Fourth thing is we don't denigrate the person for accidental mistake. Like they have made a mistake, we don't denigrate the person. Like if you see in the story of Brahma, Brahma was attracted to his daughter. And then it is described after what happened, Marichi and the other sages, they came to Brahma and said like, what you're doing does not befit you. It's not, what such a personality like you should do. And then what they do? They actually pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to again re-establish dharma in Brahma. So when they saw the fall of a person or a mistake of a person, they actually prayed to the Lord to actually protect that person. So when we see the fall, we don't actually denigrate the person, but we pray for the person to Krishna that please help that person, overcome that accidental mistake. Right? Like in the story of Brahma, actually it said Marichi and the sages, they prayed for Krishna, but the sons of Marichi, what did they do? They laughed at Krishna and at Brahma. Sons of Marichi, they laughed at Brahma for being attracted to his daughter. And then what was the result? They actually became sons of Kalnemi. They were cursed, and then they actually become the Sadgarbha. They actually became the sons of Devaki. Right? So they were actually cursed. So if you laugh at a mistake, then you get cursed. If you pray for them, that is the right attitude. Okay? So these are points that we can think about. That how throughout Srimad Bhagavatam we read about these great personalities, but we read the mistakes that they make and how they overcame the mistake, how they stuck onto the path of bhakti, and overcoming the mistake, they actually attain the highest perfection. Okay. So that is text number 3 we read, right? Okay. So now text number 4.
Akkalpa vishayametam smritim te muni sattama nayesha vyavadhat kala esha sarva nirakritihi.
Translation. Hare Krishna. O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Question mark.
So how Narad Muni, how do you remember this? It was previous day of Brahma. How much is previous day of Brahma? 4.3 trillion billion years. That's how can you remember something that happened previous day of Brahma? Right. So that is the fourth question. Right. So first question is, what did Narad Muni do after the sages left? Second question, how did you pass your life after initiation? Third, how did you attain that spiritual body that you have now? Fourth question is, how do you remember all this? Right. And then Prabhupada in the purport makes a point that when our consciousness is spiritualized, eternal, the spiritual consciousness is eternal, and hence there is no question of forgetfulness in the spiritual consciousness. Right now, our consciousness is actually polluted through the material body, like Prabhupada explains that in the purport. Right now, our consciousness is pure, but it is actually covered by the lust, anger, greed, envy, and so on. Right? Material consciousness now. But when the consciousness is actually purified to spiritual consciousness, then we can remember everything, because in spiritual consciousness, nature of spiritual consciousness is eternal, right? So the point is, Narad Muni, even in that body, he actually attains spiritual consciousness, and that spiritual consciousness is actually still there, and hence he remembers that which actually happened before. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna says? That Arjun, you have forgotten all these, taking Arjun as a position as a jiva, right? Because your consciousness is contaminated, like not for Arjun, but he's actually making a point for all of us, because our consciousness is contaminated, we forget. But if our consciousness is spiritual, right, then you can remember, because the spiritual consciousness is actually eternal. Like sometimes we wonder when we meet these great devotees, some Maharaj and disciples of Prabhupada, we meet them, and then we meet them after like 4 years, and they may have like 20,000, 30,000 people, and they'll see you and immediately say, oh, you from North Carolina, how are you doing? And you wonder, like, how do these personalities, they meet thousands of people, traveling all around the world, how do they know? Because they are in their consciousness actually spiritualized, and hence you remember these things. So the real secret to actually have that memory is that consciousness is purified. You actually spiritualize. Then in spiritual consciousness, you can remember everything, right? So that's the answer. But the question is, how do you remember? See the last sentence of the purport. It says, Prabhupada says, this amazing sentence. You like wonder where Prabhupada is actually using these words of his purport. But super consciousness of the supra mind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit. So, like, who can write in such a way, right? So super consciousness. So, as such, like, consciousness we know, right? So Prabhupada is actually saying super consciousness, referring to pure spiritual consciousness. Super consciousness of the supra mind. So right now our mind is on the material plane. Supra, I was actually looking up on Google, like, is supra mind like even a word? Like you don't actually see it. Super mind you will see, like because they have super mind, there's a super mind or something like that. But supra mind is a mind which is not of this material nature, which is actually transcendental to this material nature, having that spiritual mind, right? In the spiritual mind is as good as the spirit soul. It's completely eternal, right? It has the qualities of Sat, Chit, Anand, right? Okay. So now Narad Muni is going to start answering the questions. So the rest of the chapter is basically Narad Muni's details of his life, right? Okay, text 5.
Narada Uvacha Bhikshubhir Vipravasite Vigyanadeshtibhir Mama Vartamano Vayasyade Tata Etad Akarasham.
Translation.
Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of the transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way.
Yeah. Okay, so he's just saying, okay, the great sages who had imparted this jnana. So almost it's like the same thing. It's like the verse 3. So text 30 of the previous Vyasadev's question, and then here Narad Muni is saying, like the great sages, the Bhakti Vedantas, they imparted this knowledge and they actually left, and I actually passed my life in this way, which is actually going to be described. So it's just kind of a prelude to the next verses to come. Right? Now, here in the purport, actually, Prabhupada actually makes a wonderful point. Okay, first let's just see the theme of the entire discussion. Why did Narada Muni in the previous chapter tell about his life? Because he wants to give his own example how bhakti is so powerful that it can actually lead one to perfection. Bhakti, which is actually obtained through the association of devotees, is so powerful that it can lead one to perfection. So Narad Muni gave his example up to that point. Right? Now, in this chapter, he's going to give more detail. Why? Because Vyasadeva is actually asking him. But Narad Muni made his point that you should write the Srimad Bhagavatam, and previous chapter ended with Narad Muni giving the instruction, right? Please, therefore, describe the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you are qualified to do it, so you do it. So he's concluded that. But because Vyasadeva is asking, no, I want to know more. You just gave me like just, titles. I want to know more details about the story, right? So hence this conversation is there. Now in the purport, Prabhupada actually makes wonderful point. He says, after initiation, what happens? There is a tangible change in our life. Right? And then this is an important symptom visible after initiation. Actual association of devotee brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. So when we actually get initiated, there should be a tangible change in our life. That means we actually become serious in our chanting and our hearing. Now, the association of devotees gives us 3 different points. It's very wonderful. 3 points we can actually get from the association of devotees that will actually cause a quick change in our life. Right? The first point is we actually receive inspiration from the devotees. Right? So normally, like we are doing our sadhana bhakti, right? And we may not we are every day doing the same thing, and we know that we need to improve, but there is no inspiration. I need to do my japa better. I need to be more regulated in my life. I need to read more, but somehow that inspiration is not there. But in the association of devotees, we get inspired. We get their association and feel like, now I have to do this. I'll get up early in the morning, I'll chant, I'll be serious and around. We get that inspiration to make the change. So that is the first aspect of the change. We get that inspiration. Second aspect is purification. In the association of devotees, what happens? Our consciousness gets purified. So the things which are actually obstacles, or which is actually hindrances to us for making that change, those hindrances are actually reduced. Right? So we get inspiration, we get purification, and the third thing that we receive from association of devotees is empowerment. We are empowered to make those changes, and these three combinations, it's like it's super powerful combination: inspiration, purification, empowerment. These three are so powerful that we can actually make rapid changes in our spiritual life. Because if you have only inspiration, that may not be enough, because you still need the strength to overcome the obstacles, right? So that comes through purification, and then the association gives that power. Okay, yes, now I can actually overcome. So these three things. And Prabhupada also makes a point that this entire pastime is actually making the point how Narad Muni, a 5-year-old boy who is actually a son of a maid servant, is actually getting the highest perfection, right? Highest perfection. And this goes back to the point that how bhakti is ahituki and apratihita. So it does not matter what is your bodily condition now, what is your material condition, none of those actually make difference. One can actually attain perfection from any stage of life. A 5-year-old boy is attaining perfection. I know what is in Bhagavatam. We get repeatedly examples of 5-year-old boys, right? Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Narad Muni, right? And Narad Muni is going to become the guru of other 5-year-old boys. So 5-year-old boy who is actually born as a Shudra, son of a maid servant, is actually going to attain the highest perfection. So this shows the power of bhakti and how bhakti is aprati. Okay, text 6.
Ekatmaja me janane yoshin mudha cha kinkari mayatmaje nanyagato chakre snehanu bandhanam.
Ek Atmaja, right? So Eka means one, Atmaja means son, right? Someone born of your own self, like Janani, referring to mother. So I was the only son for my mother, right? And Snehanu Bandhanam, I was actually bound up by that Sneha. Sneha means that affection by her, right? And also it said Yoshit Muda. So she was just kinkari, she was just like a maid servant. So not very intelligent or anything like that. Only like maid servant, that position. So that is Muda. She is not very intelligent, just like a simple maid servant. And I was the only son, and hence I was bound up by the tie of affection. Translation.
I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection.
Ananya Gato means she had no other alternative for protection. Like, how in Vedic system, women are said to be always, under the care of father, husband, and then, father, husband, and the elder son. So these three. So she had only the 5-year-old son, the only one, and they had that affection. So she herself did not have Ananya Gato. She had no alternative for protection. Okay. Text 7.
Sasvatantra nakalpasid yogakshemam mamechati ishasya hi vashe loko yosha daru mayi yata.
So this word is very beautiful. Yosha daru mayi yata. Okay. So here swasvatantra, asvatantra. So sa means she, asvatantra means dependent. Okay, like dependent. Okay, let's read the translation first.
She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master.
So she wanted to take care of me, but Saswatantra na. She was not, not independent. So she was actually not able to do anything for me, like, in the sense like she was just a maid servant, not very intelligent. She didn't have any other someone to actually take care of her. No alternative for protection. Ananya Gata. So she could not do much for me. That was the point. But then the last two lines actually he's saying Isasya. Isha means the controller, right? Isha, or the Lord himself, like the controller. He vashe loke. So everyone, the world is under the full control of Isha, or the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is Yosha Darumayi Yata. Darumayi means made of Daru. Daru is what? Wood, right? And then Yosha means a doll. So everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of the puppet master. So every one of us, we are actually controlled by Krishna, right? Either directly through Krishna or through the three modes of material nature. I think you all have seen that painting where we have those three modes of material nature, three different ladies. They have their strings on them, and they're actually controlling each one of us, like just like a puppet. And I was thinking about this example. If you visually think of an example, that a puppet master is actually moving the puppet. Now, if the puppet himself or herself says, "Oh, I don't want to get moved by this string," then what happens? Then we just have to struggle in this material world. So as soon as we actually say, "I do not want to be under Krishna's control," then Krishna says, "Anyway, you're just a puppet. So if you don't want to under my control, if you're under my control, then you'll be happy because you're under the internal energy. But if you don't want to be under that, then here, I'll put you under the three modes of material nature. You can be controlled by that." So either way we are controlled. We just have to select who is our puppet master, the three external energy of the Lord or the internal. Right? But everyone, Narada is making a point that the world is under the full control of the Lord, because next two verses is actually going to make, it's almost like a storyline, and there's going to be a dramatic incident in the story. So before that dramatic incident, he's already saying, actually, the Lord is the controller of everything. Okay, next page. Like here, there are like many of these verses, there's no purpose, not so much to explain also, but the storyline is important. So we'll continue. Okay, next page.
Aham cha tad brahmakule ushivam stad upekshaya digdesha kala vyutpano balaka panchahayaya.
Translation.
When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands.
Right. So Brahmakule. So I was in the school of a Brahmana. Balaka, I was a mere child, and Pancha means 5. So I was just 5 years old. And then Avyutpanaha means I had no experience so much of different travel. Just 5-year-old living with his maid servant, not so much experience of the world. He hasn't seen the world. Okay, next 9.
Ekada nirgatam gehad guhantim nishigam pati sarpo dashatpadad sprishtaha karpanam kalachoditaha.
Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out on one night to milk a cow, was beaten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time.
So if you see the storyline up to this point, just like if you visualize, I'm sure everyone has seen movies in their life, but in movies it's like a storyline with everything going on, and then all of a sudden there's like some big change or something, and then some emotional change, and then all of a sudden everyone's crying. And so this verse is that change. And Narada is saying, like, this 5-year-old boy staying with my mother in the ashram of the Brahmakule, in the ashram of the Brahmanas. And I was just there, like they were dependent. My mother also was just, she was not independent. She couldn't take so much care of me. I was also dependent on her. We were born with this affection. Then what happened? Ekada, once upon a time, what happened? Then my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent. And this was Kala Chodita. This actually influenced by supreme time. So imagine you're watching a movie and all of a sudden the only shelter that the boy Narada, like his name was not Narada, but we call him Narada because there's no name given to that boy. But that boy, 5-year-old boy, the only connection he had, that connection was taken away. Went to milk a cow, and then she was bitten by a snake, and then she left. Now, if you see the starting of the purport, you can actually appreciate what Prabhupada is actually seeing in this. Like, see, we will read the first line of the purport. That is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. Like, who can say such words? Like, as soon as, oh, so sad. Now, what will the child do? Only 5-year-old, his mother. We get all those emotional things. Prabhupada is, no. This is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. And Prabhupada is clearly saying that Krishna, sometimes he actually puts us in such situation which externally may seem very dramatic. Why is this happening to this devotee? Why does the devotee have to go through? He's worshipped Krishna all through his life. But Krishna is actually using that as an impetus to bring the devotee closer to him, dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. And this theme is actually repeated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? What other examples can we think of? Anyone want to unmute and quickly say, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, what examples can we think of?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Parikshit Maharaj. We see everything like perfect, like in the first canto we'll be reading how glorious Parikshit Maharaj is and how he's so powerful that he can actually defeat Kali. And then Ekada, once upon a time, he went hunting and then he was cursed to die in 7 days. And how did Parikshit Maharaj see this entire incident? He didn't say that, oh Lord, you protected me when I was born. And then, all through my life, you were with me. I could actually defeat Kali. You're always with me. Now, how come you don't protect me? I'm cursed to die in 7 days. No, that was not his thinking. He's saying, this is Krishna's mercy. It would have been very difficult for me to leave this entire emperor and focus only on Krishna Katha. But you have made that arrangement. You have made it easy for me. Again, another example is Chitraketu, right? Maharaj Chitraketu. Like he saw Lord Shiva and Parvati was sitting on the lap of Shiva, and they are so exalted they can actually do such things. But he actually made a comment. He said, like, so many sages are there, you're speaking, some spiritual topics. This is not proper. Like, what will people say? Like, he knew the glorious position, but he made a comment. And Lord Shiva didn't mind. He said, like, okay, that's fine. And Parvati said, like, what? Brahma, all these personalities, great personalities, are not saying anything. And you have the audacity to say something to Lord Shiva. Oh, my dear son, I curse you. Become a demon. And then after that, we see the reaction, and all these things. We see incidents happen, but the main thing we have to learn is how they take the incidents, how do they act upon it? What do they learn from this incident? Immediately, what was Chitraketu's reaction? He said, blessing or curse, they are just two phases of life. They'll come, they'll go. I'm not actually bewildered by it. I'm sorry for what I did, but thank you for the curse. I will actually accept it. And then there's actually few verses there where he actually points out how the Lord is actually equal to everyone. So if it's a curse that is coming, that's also the Lord's mercy. If it's a blessing coming, that is also the Lord's mercy. And then Chitraketu said that, he accepted the curse, he left. And then after that, Lord Shiva was like, see the devotees of the Lord. Narayana parasarve, na kutaschana bibhyati. Says, see the devotees of the Lord. You curse this devotee to become a demon, and he is not even affected. You say, okay, thank you, I'll become a demon. This is the glories of the devotee. Any situation they face, they actually see how it is actually Krishna's mercy upon them. And that is a theme that is seen again and again and again throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. When incidences that we would say that, why is this happening to this devotee? Such a nice devotee. But all those incidences, how the devotees are seeing the hand of Krishna in them, seeing that as a mercy of Krishna and using that as an impetus to actually come to Krishna. Actually, the curse of Maharaj Chitraketu is actually said that Sankarshan, Lord Sankarshan, wanted Chitraketu to come back to him very quickly. So he said, okay, you become a demon. By that, very quickly, you can actually come back to him. Parikshit Maharaj, he was cursed. Why? Because, oh, now the entire topic of Srimad Bhagavatam can be spoken for the benefit of the whole world. So Parikshit Maharaj, you become the instrument so that this glorious katha be spoken for the benefit of the whole world. Okay, we'll discuss this further. Let's read text 9 also. Again, the same point is actually made. Text 10, sorry.
Tadatad aham ishasya bhaktanam sham abhipsataha anugraham manyamana pratishtam disham uttaram.
Hare Krishna. I'll read this sloka again. Tada tadahamisasya bhaktanam samabhipsataha anugraham manyamanaha pratishtam disamuttaram. Translation. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north.
I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, right? Anugraha. Anugraha means mercy. Like this word comes often in the Bhagavad, many verses. You see Anugraha. Anugraha means mercy. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord. Like Prabhupada translates Anugraham as special benediction, right? And then he further said, Bhaktanam sham abhipsataha, right? Why? Because the Lord is actually very dear to his devotees. He's Bhaktanam sam abhishtaha, because the Lord is always desiring the benediction of the devotees. So I took the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires the benediction for his devotees. So thinking, I started for the Lord. Okay. Now the purpose is very short. We can just quickly read. First sentence: confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction. Every step they are actually seeing. Oh, this happened. This is the mercy of the Lord. Good came, mercy of the Lord. Bad came, mercy of the Lord. Whatever is happening, it is only the mercy of the Lord. Actually, we are anyway. When we actually hear stories where the Lord is actually showing his special mercy in the form of opulences or positive things, then we say, oh, the Lord is so merciful, right? Like Sudama. People love Sudama's story. Why? Because he just went with little bit of the chip rice. And what did he get? Oh, so much palaces of gold. And everyone's like, oh, Krishna is so great. Just little bit you give to Krishna, he'll give you unlimited. Oh, so wonderful, Krishna. Or another very commonly story that's said is like that fruit seller. Right? She just came with a little fruits. And then Krishna actually converted the entire fruits to a basket of jewels and say, oh, Krishna is so great. Right? But we see the greatness of Krishna in situations which may not appear so great from our mundane vision. So it's easy to see oh yeah, Sudama story or fruit seller, yes, Krishna is so merciful. Anything you do to Krishna, yes, he is wonderful. Right? But to see Krishna's hand in situations which are actually difficult to understand is actually our test of our progress in spirituality. How much we can see Krishna's hand in every step of our life is actually a test of how much we are progressing in our spirituality. Easy, good things that, oh yeah, this is my health is good, or this happened to me. Oh yeah, Krishna is mercy. It's easy. But to see difficult times as Krishna's mercy, that is where the real test. And that's the level that Bhagavatam is actually bringing us to. That we see the Krishna hand in every step. Why? Because Krishna is our benedictory. He's always thinking of the benefit of the devotees, right? So that's the point. Then second sentence. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in mundane sense is accepted as a special mercy of the Lord, right? So sometimes, when we see some very senior advanced devotees go through some challenges, immediately we think that, oh, Krishna, how is it possible that the devotee, he's so advanced, he's chanting for 50 years, and now he's going through this, he has this disease, this. We should not doubt. That should not create a doubt in the heart of the process of bhakti. Nor should it create any doubt in the qualifications of that devotee. it should actually, the only point we should think is Krishna is very merciful. Krishna is the best teacher. And this is something between the devotee and Krishna that is actually going on. And I will just see how I can serve the devotee in that situation. Like, that should be our only thing. Like, what do I learn from this and how I can serve? Not creating any kind of doubts in our spiritual life or doubt on that particular devotee. Okay. Then third, mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever. And by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished and spiritual health is obtained step by step. So when we get material prosperity, we say it is actually a mercy of the Lord. But here Prabhupada is saying that having that material prosperity, it is actually kind of fever because it attaches us more to this material. So sometimes the Lord takes away everything just so that we completely become dependent on the mercy of the Lord. The Lord actually creates situations where we become helpless and say like, oh, nothing can help me, nor my relatives, my property, my house, my intelligence, anything that I say is mine, nothing can help me. Krishna, you are my only shelter. So Krishna creates situations where we actually come and say, Krishna, you are my only shelter. So beautiful purpose, just 3 sentences, but so much in that, right? So, okay, there's one more point I can mention quickly. So, so when we are faced with such difficult situations, you know, if we have examples in Bhagavatam of, if you know the story of Maharaj Chitraketu, right? When he was longing for a son, right? And then he got the benediction that you will have a son, Harsha Shoka. And then when the son was poisoned by the remaining queens, right? Then the main queen, Kritaduti, what was her reaction? She actually cursed, like not cursed in the sense, but she was actually saying, oh God, you're actually blaming God for this. She said, oh God, oh Providence, you're actually not very intelligent. Why? Because you actually took the son, killed the son before the father. That is not very intelligent. And then our acharyas explained that some may say, well, you know, when did the providence make the law that the son cannot die before the father? Then she's saying, oh, if that is your point, then you're very foolish because you didn't create such a rule. So she's blaming God for what she's going through, and she's saying, you are inexperienced, you are unintelligent. Right? So that is the other contrast. Right? So if you don't see Krishna's hand in the situation as his mercy, then we tend to blame God. Either, you know, how Kritaduti is doing verbally, or in our heart we say, oh, you know, we blame God for some reason or other. And subtly we are actually blaming God. So we need to see the positive thing. Yes, this is Krishna's hand. Krishna is very merciful. He knows what is best for me, hence he has put me in this situation. I would you know, request everyone, like we don't have time, but read the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Tatenu kampam susikshamano bunjan evam kritatvikapam ridvagvapur vidadan namaste jivetayo mukti padesa dayava. This should be our guiding verse for our spiritual life. And this is in Prayers of Lord Brahma in the 10th canto. And it says, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy, all the while patiently suffering the reaction of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with heart, with words and body, is surely eligible to the highest perfection. So, and then the purport is also amazing in that, like, you know, every sentence is so wonderful, right? So in that purport, it actually made the point that because in the mind of a devotee, there may still remain some previous sinful mentality, right? The Lord removes these last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. We may think that, oh, this is my karma. It may resemble that karma, but for devotees, there is no karma. There is no karma. That thing that is the devotee is going through, it is only Krishna's hand. Krishna is giving the devotee punishment so that the subtle, you know, remnants of contamination in his mind that may be there is actually removed. And then it says, the Lord specifically, therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced that activity. So Lord is an expert teacher. He knows in our heart what is that small thing, what is that small anartha that is actually causing him to do a particular activity. And then Lord knows that small anartha, and he'll put us in a particular situation where we are actually faced with an anartha face to face, and we are forced to say, this is my anartha, this is how I have to give it up. And that purport is so wonderful. Please read that purport, and you can read that again and again, and it's so beautiful. Okay, so 10, 14, 8. Okay, remember that. Okay, so let's continue the story. So text 11. So here he's basically said, he actually took this as a special mercy of the Lord, and then he started towards the north. Actually, Chakravarti Pal actually made the point that he didn't even stop for the funeral rites of his mother. Not that we should imitate such things, but the point is actually made that he said, okay, mercy of the Lord, fine, I'm going. And we can understand that the stage that Narad Muni, like previously itself, we heard that by repeatedly hearing the glories of the Lord from the Bhakti Vedanta, he already attained that stage of prema. Narad Muni already attained that stage of prema, and hence he could do such a thing. Right? Text 11.
Spiritan janapadans tatra puragrama vrajakaran keta karvata patischa vananyupavananija.
So next 4 verses, basically he'll actually say, where did he travel? Right? Okay, so translation.
After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests.
So he's basically saying where all he went north, but he crossed cities, towns, villages, farms. Like he's actually going through all these different places. Prabhupada in the purport, he makes a very interesting point. He said, like, this was previous day of Brahma. And we think that, oh, now, we are like so used to like, okay, now a new model will come, or a new software update. And then there'll be something new. We get excited about these things. But Prabhupada makes a point, even in the previous day of Brahma, so many billions of years before, the same thing was there. There were cities, there were towns, there were villages. Same thing is there. The history just keeps repeating itself. So Bhagavatam is not focusing on these points which are actually common, which do not change. Even next day of Brahma, you say like, okay, there'll be something nice. Maybe next life there'll be something nice. But next day of Brahma, the same things are just repeating again and again and again. And hence Bhagavatam, it just focuses on the real important matters, the matters which do not change, right? The most important factors of the history are actually picked up in this Bhagavatam and focused on, basically focusing on how the Lord actually appears in this, the glories of the Lord, the devotion of the devotees. So, right? And Prabhupada says the history of the universe repeats itself practically in the same way. So don't think that, okay, now this, after a few years, this will happen, then it will be so nice, everything will change. No, it's the same thing again and again. Puna charvita charvananam. Again and again, we are chewing the chew, right? So it will be maybe a different package, but the same context, right? Again and again. That's what the material world offers. Okay. Text 12.
Chitradhatu vichitradrin vibhabhagna bhujadruman jalashayan chivajalan nalini sura sevitaha chitrasvanai patra rathair vibramad brahmarashriyaha.
I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds.
Yeah. So like previously he talked about like cities, and then so in text, yeah. So he talked about flourishing metropolis. So basically through cities, town, villages. And now in this verse, he's saying that there are mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, copper. And he saw all these things. Yeah. And actually Chakravarti Pad actually makes the point that even after seeing all this, he was not disturbed. He was just passing through all these. And he was not disturbed because he was absorbed in the sweetness of the Lord. Because he, and you can consider the stage of, we already read Narad Muni attained prema while hearing the Bhakti Vedanta. So he's already at that stage. And because Narad Muni is saying, my mind is absorbed in tasting the sweetness of the Lord at every time, all these places I saw, but they weren't of importance to me. Normally, when we see some such places in our destiny, then it becomes like pit stop or a rest area. We say, oh, let me stop here, let me stop here, let me stop here. But for Narad Muni, all these things, it's okay. My focus is tasting the sweetness of the Lord. Okay, 13.
Nalavenu Sharastanbha Kusha Kichaka Gavaram Eka Evati Evatyudyatoham Adraksham Vipunam Mahat Ghoram Pratibhaya Karam Vyalo Luka Shivarjiram.
Who's next?
Translation. I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals.
So Prabhupada actually in the purport makes a point that here he's saying that he passed through so many forests of bamboo, reeds, caves, and so on. And then he actually, went through the dangerously fearful forest. Imagine this, a 5-year-old boy. He's going through all these like dangerous forests where there are snakes, owls, jackals. Like, why is he actually traveling? Why is he actually traveling, going through all these different places? Prabhupada says this is a duty of a Parivrajacharya or a mendicant to travel through all these different places, to actually see all these different places. Why? To gain faith in God and strength of mind, and as well to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. So these 3 things Prabhupada is saying. So how can one gain faith in God by traveling through all these places? Like there's one actually statement that Prabhupada says that I have seen the different world, and I'm convinced to the point that all these things, there's all these things in the material world, there is actually no satisfaction. There's nothing in this. There's no value to all this. It's just like a dream. The only thing that matters is our devotion to Krishna. Right? So when we actually see, so perhaps Prabhupada is saying, when we actually see all these things, then we gain faith that all these things, it's just the same thing. Puna Charvita Charvanana. There's nothing beyond. And hence we gain our faith in God. And by that experience of traveling through different places, one strengthens one mind. We are seeing different things, but we are not accepting or engaging with these different things, then one strengthens one mind, right? So like we may be tempted by so many things in our day-to-day life. We see those things and we say like, that is, pratikul to my bhakti. That's not favorable. I'm not going to engage. That repeatedly, again and again, we can see an object and say, okay, no, this is not for me, not for me. Then we are strengthening our mind. We strengthen our mind. And that's the way. Like if we are tempted by something and we engage with that, then our mind is again weak. And then we again desire to engage with that object again and again and again, right? But if you actually see a particular desire and you say, okay, no, then just stop, not for me, right? Then our mind gets strengthened. And then after some time, that thing will just come in front of us. It does not even affect us because our mind is actually strengthened by that. Okay. Prabhupada in the purport, he also said how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he traveled through the forest of Jharkhand, and there he actually met with tigers and deers. They were actually embracing each other and chanting Hare Krishna. He made all these different animals actually chant Hare Krishna. Right? So duty of a sannyasi to actually travel, or Parivrajacharya to travel through all these different places to get an experience. Okay. Then Prabhupada actually, he kind of brings a change in the purport, in the theme. And he says, in this age of Kali, sannyas is actually forbidden for ordinary people. Right? So the only purpose sannyas is actually given, one should, however, take the vow to stop social intercourse completely and devote life exclusively to the service of the Lord. So these two things are important. The change of dress of sannyasi, that's just a formality. Main thing is one should stop social intercourse completely and devote one's life exclusively to the service of God. And then also how Prabhupada points out that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not even accept the name of a sannyasi. He kept the name Chaitanya, right? So in this age, devotional service of hearing and repeating the holy glories of the Lord is strongly recommended, right? So Prabhupada is bringing the point of, and we are coming to the last sentence of this purport, which was a question. Prabhupada is bringing the point. So if you see the flow of the purport, he's saying that, yes, a duty of Parivrajaka, travel everywhere, gain faith. But then actually for Kali Yuga, sannyas is actually not so recommended. The main point of sannyas is actually the main point is actually not sannyas. The main point of us is stop social intercourse completely, devote life exclusively for the service. So sannyas itself is a formality, Prabhupada is making. And then he says, the main thing is engage in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And then he actually makes a point that one need not imitate these parivrajaka, that I have to travel here to get this experience. So that is not required. Main thing is hearing and chanting. And to that purpose, one can even stay in a holy place, sit in one place and study the book of the 6 Goswamis. So if you see the theme Prabhupada is actually taking us, he's saying even the main thing is hearing and chanting. So even to do that, you can stay in a holy place, do that. And then at other places, Prabhupada says, well, that is important. We have to hear and chant, right? And then we have to also distribute this Krishna consciousness. So preaching is a higher theme. But in this purport, Prabhupada is actually saying that what Narad Muni is actually doing, that is actually not required for us. But our main thing is bringing us to a stage of hearing and chanting. And for that, you can also stay in a dham and do it. But then beyond that, we get the instruction that you can actually purpose is to travel for the purpose of enlightening everyone else in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so you can see like Prabhupada is like step by step elevating to us to the highest stage of giving Krishna to others. Rohin Nandan Prabhu, does that answer your question? Or you want more to discuss this further?
No, Prabhu. I think, yeah, like now I understood, like it was in comparison to what Prabhupada was saying in that purport. So yeah, now it makes sense.
Yeah, if you see the entire flow of the purport, Prabhupada is building a point up to the point of hearing and chanting. And to that point, he's actually saying, well, the main point is hearing and chanting. For that, you can also stay in the holy dham, study the books of the 6 Goswamis. And then further, we see Prabhupada take it to the next level of the aspect of preaching. Okay, so next, text 14.
Parishrantendriyatmaham tritparito bhubhukshitaha snatva pita radhe nyadya upasprishto gatashramah.
Who's next? Go ahead. Who's
I think we had to start from the beginning.
okay. Vijay Radhika Mate, do you read? Yes. Okay, Domi.
Okay, yeah. Thus traveling, I felt tired both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from exhaustion.
Yeah. So he felt tired, both bodily and mentally. He was traveling, 5-year-old boy. Imagine a 5-year-old boy traveling through cities, all these places, going through dangerous forests. And then he felt tired, both bodily, and he got thirsty, hungry, took a bath in a river and drank water, and then he got relief from exhaustion. So the main point Prabhupada makes in the purport is as we progress in our spiritual life, or move towards a stage of renunciation, we actually can easily satisfy our needs by the gifts of nature. And we read the story of how the Goswamis of Vrindavan, like how Prabhupada often gives that example. Right? Takta Turnama Shesha Mandalapati. They gave up everything as Takta Turna, as insignificant. And they were staying in the forest under a different tree every day. And then just palm full of buttermilk. That's it. Right? So as we progress in our spiritual life, then just the gifts of nature is actually sufficient for us to live happily in this world and engage in Krishna. Like in the second canto, we'll read this where Sukdev Goswami actually makes the point that, why are we after so much material advancement? If you want a pillow, can't you just use your hand like this and sleep? If you want a bed, Aaron, isn't that so much grass everywhere? Just sleep on the grass. So he's actually making the point that you can actually, like, as we have progressed, then we are not so dependent on material things for our existence. We can just be happy with gifts of nature and focus on the real important things of Krishna consciousness. Okay, text 15.
Tasmin nirmanuje ranye pipalo pasta ashritaha atmanatmanam atmastham yata shrutam achintayam.
After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree, in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls.
So then, after he drank water, he felt some relief. Then he just found what? Pipala. Pipala is banyan tree. Right? So under a banyan tree, he just under the shadow of banyan tree, he actually began to meditate upon the super soul situated in. Because Sanskrit is very interesting. It says Atmanat Manam Atmastam. So 3 times Atma is there. Right? First Atma referring to intelligence. Atmana, intelligence. Second Atmana referring to the super soul. And Atma Stam, here Atma referring to the soul, and Stam means situated within himself. So he uses intelligence to meditate on the Atma, the intelligence, first intelligence referring to the Atma. He uses intelligence Atma to meditate on the Atma, the super soul, who is actually situated within the Atma. So you should see like the beauty of the words of the Bhagavatam. Like someone who just reads Atma, like Prabhupada makes a point even in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says Atma refers to the body, the mind, and also the soul. In the 6th chapter, Prabhupada makes a point. Right? So here it is said Atmana, Atmanam, Atmastam. So by using his intelligence, he meditates on the super soul who is situated within the Atma or situated within himself. Right? But how did he actually meditate? Yatha Shrutam. So that is the point that Prabhupada focused. That we actually meditate based on what we have learned from or what we have heard from other devotees or from our guru and so on. So Prabhupada makes a point that one should not meditate just based on like our personal lives. And this is so applicable to today's world. Right? People just create so many different kinds of meditations. Right? They just do anything and they say like, oh yeah, this is the meditation. You can look at the tip of a flame of a candle, and that is meditation. All those so-called manufactured ways of meditation may be something to just quieten the mind a little bit, right? And hence people feel some benefit and say, oh, this is so good. But the real meditation is what is actually given in Yatha Shrutam, which I actually heard from the devotees of the Lord. Right? So what he heard from the Bhakti Vedantas, based on that, he's actually meditating on the form of the Lord in that heart. Right? Prabhupada in the purport makes really like 3 wonderful points. One should know perfectly well, first thing from Shastra, authoritative sources of Shastra. Second, through Guru, transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master. And third, one should actually use one's by proper use of one's trained intelligence to understand Guru and Shastra. So Shastra, Guru, but how do we understand? And Prabhupada saying by proper use of one's trained intelligence. Then one may wonder, how can one train one's intelligence be trained? And he said, by rendering service on the order of the spiritual master. By engaging in devotional service, we actually strengthen our intelligence to understand Shastra and Guru. So how can we develop that trained intelligence? The more we actually engage in devotional service under the orders of the spiritual master, then the more our intelligence will be trained, and then by that we can actually understand the Shastra and the Guru. Okay, text 16.
Dhyayatashcharanam bhojam bhavanirjita chetasa otkantyashru kalakshaya ridyasinmeshaner harihi.
As soon as I begin to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart.
Amazing, right? Like Narad Muni, after all the travel, and then he meditated on the Lord in the heart, and then what happened? As soon as he began to meditate, the word is actually Dhyata means meditate, Charanam Bhujam, meditate on the lotus, Charana Ambuja, right? The meditate on the lotus, Ambuja is the lotus, of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. Then what happened? Shanaihi, without delay, Bhava Nirjita, right? Bhava, if you see the stages of bhakti, we have discussed Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha, Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhav, and Prem, right? We already know Narad Muni has attained the stage of Prema. So here he's actually experiencing those symptoms of Bhava, which is actually said to be like the first ray shine of the Prema, right? So he's experiencing the symptoms of Bhava. And there are 8 different symptoms of Bhava, like tears from our eyes, then our voice faltering. We read in Chaitanya Charitamrita about how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the Rath Yatra, he was just like ja, gaga, these words were coming out from his mouth. He was trembling. Then perspiration, tears we mentioned, then hair standing on end, then dancing, singing. All those are actually symptoms of bhava, ecstasy. Right? So there are 8 symptoms of ecstasy. Nectar of Devotion talks about that. But Narad Muni here, without delay, he's actually experiencing those symptoms of ecstasy. Tears rolling down his eyes. Mind transformed in transcendental love. And the Lord actually appeared on the lotus of my heart. Like sometimes we ask this question. Well, the Lord is situated in Paramatma in our heart. What does it mean that the Lord actually appears in our heart? Here we are actually seeing Narad Muni's lifetime. When one actually comes to that stage of perfection, the Lord actually gives the darshan in the core of our heart, and we will see what is the result of that darshan in the next 2 verses. He's actually seeing the Lord has personally appeared, not just Paramatma feature, the Lord has personally appeared as Bhagwan feature in the core of his heart. And we can compare this also with Dhruva Maharaj, right? When Dhruva Maharaj, he actually, following the instructions of Narad Muni, he actually did the meditation, and then how his meditation was so intense that even the demigods were actually perturbed by the power of his meditation. And then it is described how the Lord actually, when he appeared in front of him, then Dhruva, he actually fell like a rod, in front of the Lord. And then it is described when he saw that form. Actually, he was meditating, and then he opened his eyes and he saw that Lord was right in front of him, right? And when he saw that form, he was actually drinking the Lord with his eyes. He was kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth. He was embracing the Lord with his arms. Right? So we'll read about this point further. How when the Lord appears in the core of our heart, he actually conquers all our senses, and each one of our senses is actually absorbed in the Lord. Like how Dhruva is drinking the beauty of the Lord with his eyes, with his mouth, he's kissing the lotus feet, he's embracing the Lord with a complete absorption in that features of the Lord. Each sense is separately enlivened in the darshan of the Lord. Right? Okay. The purport Prabhupada actually goes through the different stages. First is Shraddha, then is Sadhu Sangha, then is Bhajana Kriya, then is Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, Ruchi, Ashakti. So Prabhupada is actually in the 2 paragraph of purport, he goes through all the stages. Okay, and then, let's continue. Text 17.
Prematibhara nirvina pulakangoti nirvritaha ananda samplavelino na pashyam ubhayam mune.
O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enveloped, being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy. I could not see both myself and the Lord.
So now Narada is continuing that when he actually had the darshan of the Lord in the core of his heart, right? Being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately alive. Like how we described with Dhruva, that his eyes were drinking the nectar, his mouth was kissing the feet. Every part of the body was separately glorifying, experiencing the Lord, right? So with your nose, you can actually smell the fragrance of the Lord. With the eyes, you see. With the ears, like Chakravarti says, with the ears, you can hear the ankle bells of the Lord. Every sense is separately connected with the form of the Lord, right? So every part of my body became separately enlivened, and being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. That basically, Chakravarti is saying that at that time, Narada Muni actually he fainted out of that bliss, and hence he could not see himself. Now he could see the Lord himself. Right? And Prabhupada makes a point, that these, we are reading all these, spiritual feelings of happiness and ecstasies. There's actually no mundane comparison to it. We cannot compare it to anything material. We don't have the experience of that. If someone comes and says like, oh, have you tasted this particular preparation? And let's say you have never even heard of that preparation. Then what experience we have? No experience. Like maybe like someone here on the call can say some preparation which is like so local to their particular tradition that none of us have heard, and say, have you tasted this? What is that? I don't even know what is that. So that's the point. Like Prabhupada is saying that we have no experience of this, but by hearing these things, for Narada Muni's lifetime, we can actually aspire. Like how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually says, Nayanam Galadashrudharaya. When will I come to a stage where I experience these kind of emotions? So to actually aspire to get this stage is actually good. We should pray to Krishna. When will I have your darshan? When will, like Dhruva Maharaj was experiencing such ecstasy, when will I experience that? Okay. Text 18.
Rupam Bhagavato Yatan Manakantam Shuchapaham Apashyan Sahasotaste Vaiklavyad Durmana Iva.
The transcendental form of the Lord as it is satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable.
So what happened? He actually had that, as soon as he meditated, he got that full darshan of the Lord. And then when he got that darshan, every sense was separately enlivened. Actually, even in Dhruva Maharaj pastime, there is this is like the first prayer of Dhruva Maharaj to Vishnu. When you see Vishnu, he actually says, just by your darshan, every sense is actually separately enlivened, right? And he actually makes a point that you have enlivened all my senses, my hands, my legs, my ears, my touch sensation, my life force, and my power of speech. Everything has been enlivened. And he said, like, up to this point, everything was sleeping. Right? Prabhupada in the purport, he actually quotes how Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he says, Jiva jago, Gora Chandra bole. Kota nidra jago maya picha chira kore. Wake up, sleeping soul, wake up, sleeping soul. So right now, as the senses are engaged in, material things, then that is just like sleeping. The senses are just like, they're just like a dream state. You're eating some nice thing, ice cream which is not offered to Krishna, and like, oh, so nice. Just like a dream, the senses are engaged with sense object, but there's no rasa there. It is just like sleeping state. And Dhruva Maharaj is saying now that you have given me your darshan, and each one of my senses actually now awakened, right? And yeah. So if you want to read that purport, it's very nice actually. Guru Maharaj's prayers comes in fourth canto, chapter is that? Ninth chapter, text number 5, 495. Right? Dhruva talks about his experience of how his senses were actually enlivened. Prabhupada makes a point in purport. Jiv Jago, that's when we come in contact with the Lord, that's when our senses are actually enlivened, right? And when we actually see the Lord, when we have that direct perception of the Lord, then it satisfies the mind's desire. And at once, all our mental incongruities are actually wiped away. Right? So we are all, like Prabhupada and Purport makes a point, that we are all looking for that form of the Lord. Everything we are doing in this material world, finally we want to see that form of the Lord. That is what we are really hankering for. Prabhupada says, one who has seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. And life after life, what we are doing, we are just searching for that one form. Just the darshan of the Lord. Can I just once taste the Lord? Ek baar mate rase matore Bhaktivinoda Thakur said. Just once, can you relish the nectar of the Lord? So we are aspiring for that. And Prabhupada said, we won't be satisfied with anything else unless we actually experience that form of the Lord, right? And like Rupa Goswami actually makes a point. He, that famous verse it comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, if you are actually attached to your friends and your family and all this world, then do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the banks of the Yamuna at Keshigarh. Casting his sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in 3 places, appears very bright in the moonlight. So if you're attached to anything else, don't see the form. Why? Because once you see the form, then you will not see anything else. And we are actually aspiring life after life. We just want to see that form. Like how we say, in the heart, there is a Krishna-shaped vacuum, which can be filled only when we actually can taste Krishna. Right? Otherwise, that vacuum will always be in our heart. Okay? And then what happened? Upon losing that form he was actually seeing and he was relishing and every sense was enlivened, and then that form disappeared. Then he was perturbed. Like if someone has a lot of wealth, you get a lottery, like, okay, $1 million, you get a lottery, and all of a sudden it's taken away. Then you cannot stop but think about that money. Oh, I had this, but now it is not there. So similarly, when the form disappeared, then Narad Muni became perturbed. Where's that form? And he was desiring to see that, but the form actually disappeared. Okay, and then he became despondent. Okay, so maybe one more verse and then we'll stop. We'll take a break. Text 19.
Didrikshustad aham bhuya pranidhaya manoridhi vikshamano pina pashyam avitripta ivaturaha.
Translation. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved.
Okay. So again, like he was lamenting that, oh, that form was there. I want to see that form. And then he said, like, okay, let me again go back. What did I do? I actually meditated. This is how I did the meditation. I used my intelligence. What I had heard from the sages, I followed the exact same thing step by step. Let me again do it. So hence I can get the darshan. I got the darshan. I got the result once, right? So let me again go back through the same process. But in spite of doing that same thing, despite my attempts to concentrate, doing the same thing, the Lord did not actually appear, right? And thus I was dissatisfied. I was very much angry. Why I cannot see the form of the Lord? You once gave me darshan. Now I cannot see it. Let me try again, try again, try again. Still I cannot see it. Right? Prabhupada actually makes a point. There is no mechanical process to bhakti. Like we may do like 1 week, like, okay, I'm going to prepare this wonderful offering to the Lord. And then you do the same, like, okay, add so much sweet, so much milk, so much this ingredient, this rose water, this, and then like, oh, and you offer it to Krishna. And like everyone is like, wow, this is from the spiritual world. This is so wonderful preparation. And you say next week, okay, this time again I'll do the same thing with the same ingredients, step by step by step. And then people are like, oh, it's not so good. Did the Lord did you offer this to Krishna today? We can do the same thing again and again. But still, when will the Lord appear? He appears of his own free will. So it is not in our hands. It's not like, we can demand at night, 10 o'clock, say, no, I want the sun to arise now. I want sunrise now. We cannot demand it. We just have to patiently be engaged in the activities of devotional service and patiently wait. When will the Lord show mercy to me? When will the Lord show mercy to me? With that attitude, we just continue our devotional service. The Lord is completely independent. When he wants to show, he will show. Right? When he wants to withhold himself, he will withhold himself. Right? So that's true in our sadhana also, though we are not at that stage of Narad Muni, but sometimes we get so much taste in chanting. We're chanting, we get so much taste. Right? And then sometimes we are like chanting, we are trying to concentrate our mind, we are trying to do everything, try to focus, pray, but still no taste. Yeah? No taste. But still, why the Lord actually does that, we'll discuss in the next part, which is the next continuation of this. But the main point is you cannot force the Lord to actually appear. Like Prabhupada says, when he pleases, being satisfied with a sincere attempt of devotional service, then the Lord will actually show himself out of his own accord. Right? Otherwise, we cannot see. So we just have to simply await the opportune moment and continue discharging the described duty in devotional service. And when the Lord wants to exhibit himself, he will exhibit. Okay, so we'll stop here. Let's see, there are some questions.
Prabhuji, my question was, so Narad Muni was Gandharva before that. So that's the first life, Prabhuji. There is no other life. I mean, all these people, they go to heavenly planets after doing pious activities, right, Prabhu?
Mm-hmm.
So he may did pious activities and then went to heavenly planets and then came back as a maid servant.
So we don't know what is the life before that Gandharva Loka. And actually, it is not so important for the story. Okay. The main point is, the main point here, the theme is how from the son of a maidservant he actually attained the perfection. And that's what we are interested to understand, because we can actually then follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni and attain the same perfection. That is the point that we are looking for. That is the point of our focus. Right? And then in the 7th canto, when he actually tells Yudhishthira Maharaj's story, there he's actually giving the example. The main point why he actually tells the story is to warn Yudhishthira Maharaj about like his association with women and how he was so lusty and how he was chanting, singing. So we learn the lessons, technical details about it. What we need to know to understand the lesson is given in Bhagavatam. Before that, what he was at, that's not so important. I think so. That's never heard like what's the life before.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. My question was in text 21, it talks about Narada Muni's material taint. It says,
we have not come to that, Madhu.
No, my question is regarding, it says, searching audience of the Lord in the lonely forest is considered to be in the mode of goodness. And that is why he was not able, that is the material taint. But even after that, how did the Lord appear in his heart? That was my question.
We will not come to that. So we'll,
okay.
Okay. Our break will continue. Yeah. Vijay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have two questions. In the purport of text 11, So we are reading that how Narad Muni is passing through the boy, as a 5-year-old boy, he is passing through cities, towns, and villages. So how this is in the purport, Prabhupada is writing that he continually went on to progressive spiritual emancipation. So first, what is progressive spiritual emancipation, and how going through these different towns and villages he was doing that?
So that's the point, I was trying to explain earlier, that how Prabhupada says in the purport of text 13, that, by traveling through all these places to gain faith in the God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inner. So let's focus on the first 2 points: gain faith in God and strength of the mind. Right? So by traveling through all these places, what is Narad Muni going? That spiritual emancipation, that progressive spiritual elevation. How is Narad Muni actually getting all these things? By going through this, right? By experiencing. And that's the reason I made the point that how when we see different things and we realize that, oh, all these things are actually, it's a God's creation, but there's no point in engaging with them for my sense gratification. There's no rasa in all these things. So we actually gain faith that the only thing that is important is actually the mercy of the Lord. So by that experience, so the whole point here is Prabhupada is actually saying this. The duty of a mendicant, you experience all these things and you say it's the same thing in different packaging. It's the same thing. There's no rasa here. And then you actually gain faith in the Lord. And also we strengthen our mind. And I made the point that when we actually get a desire and we actually say, okay, I don't want to engage with that desire, it's not favorable to bhakti, then we are strengthening our mind again. So he's seeing all these sittings, all these opulences. They're saying, no, it's not important for bhakti, so it's not.
Prabhuji, so it's spiritual elevation, not emancipation. Emancipation is like liberation, right?
Towards that, progressive spiritual emancipation. He's coming towards the stage of progressive emancipation. Okay. Liberation also can be used in the sense that, when you are actually in this material world, but not affected by the things of this material world, then they're already liberated.
Prabhuji, I have another question for text 4. I think Divyanita Mataji also asked that question. So the question is asking, this is the question number 3 in closed book short questions. When did Narad Muni meet with the Bhakti Vedantas? So is the answer in the purport that he met it in the previous kalpa?
Yeah.
Text 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is in the purport that he met it in the previous kalpa.
Yeah, previous kalpa. Yes. So it already says in the translation, the first 2 words is prak kalpa.
Yeah.
Right. So in the previous kalpa, that entire incident happened.
So answer is given in the purport.
Yeah. In the text itself. Right?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Mantri.
Yes, Prabhu, I have the question I asked initially. Is Naradji an avatar?
Oh, yes.
Or he achieved the position of Narad through how he's describing his life as a maid servant and became Narad?
That's a good question. So as we follow the story of the Bhagavatam, it is actually said that in the previous day, through this entire thing, he was at Gandharvaloka, he was cursed, he became a Shudra, and then he went through this entire stage, and then he actually was empowered by the Lord with that Bhakti Shakti. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He actually became the Narad Muni, as we know in this day of Brahma. So in this day of Brahma, starting of the day of Brahma, he's actually a completely liberated person as an incarnation of the Lord, as the empowered by devotional service as an incarnation of the Lord. So if you consider this entire day of Brahma, then yes, certainly he's there. The whole point is in the previous day of Brahma, he went through the process to attain this.
Thank you. Also, Prabhu, I was realizing, separately from this, I was realizing the causeless mercy of the Lord is mostly on 5-year-old boy like Dhruv, and now again Naradji. He was also 5-year-old.
Yes, and Prahlad Maharaj, right?
Prahlad, yeah.
3 stories in Bhagavatam of 5-year-old. Okay, Domi.
Yes, Prabhu, I have a question. Purport of text 4, I don't think I'm understanding it correctly. So basically here it says spiritual consciousness it's developed by Sri Narada, and but in this report also says consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of material body. This consciousness is inferior, destructible, and perverted. But the super consciousness of in the spiritual plane. So I was thinking, so does that mean like the spiritual consciousness is inferior than the super consciousness? It's not.
So the pure consciousness, spiritual consciousness is completely pure. It has the qualities of eternal, it is actually directly the manifestation of the internal energy of the Lord. But when that consciousness is projected through the material body, then it becomes the inferior consciousness. So right now, our symptom of life is consciousness, right? It's because of consciousness we are seeing, we are hearing, we are interacting. It's consciousness. But that consciousness is going through the material coverings, and hence it is actually contaminated. It is inferior now, right? The
So
pure,
you mean like, sorry.
so the pure consciousness, so basically what's the process of Krishna consciousness? We are just taking off all these coverings. It is just a natural state. You take off all the coverings and you come back to the spiritual consciousness. And Prabhupada is making the point in the purport, then when Narad Muni in the previous life, as a son of a maidservant, he attained that pure spiritual consciousness in that lifetime itself. And hence he's actually able to remember. Do you understand or not?
Yeah, but I'm a little confused because the spiritual consciousness and then the super conscious, but it says the spiritual consciousness is, you said it's contaminated because it's expressed through the medium material body.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Sri Narada, he achieved like pure consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'll ask you outside the class.
Okay. Okay, so we'll take a quick 5 minutes break. Come back 9:05. We'll continue. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
One more time, a little louder. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. One more time, a little louder with your heart. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Please, let's come back. Let's continue this chapter. So, as devotees are coming in, maybe you can just quickly share one point in this entire discussion today that you liked. Anyone who's back can please share.
What is that, Prabhu? We couldn't hear you.
Please share one point that you liked in the discussion so far.
I like the point that bhakti is not mechanical. It seems like the sabji comes one day nicely, it doesn't come one day nicely.
Actually, the point that goes with that is that when we are chanting our Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is more than the, anyway, I'll actually discuss this point. It's important. I'll wait to
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that Bhagavatam focuses on unchanging things.
Yes, the things that are really important, not the Puna Charita Sivanama. Right?
And one more point I like that, this is the way of dragging sincere soul near to the God.
Yeah, we have to, as we progress in our spiritual life, Krishna will give us tests for what we are ready for it. Okay, anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Who's speaking?
Prabhuji, I like the point that confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord.
Every step. That's very nice. Thank you. Anyone else?
I really liked when you said that how much we accept, how much we can be able to accept the mercy of the Lord is how much you have advanced in Krishna consciousness. This is a test, very big statement.
Yeah, thank you.
Very big statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I like the after initiation, we should see some tangible results. And the 3 effects of association is getting inspiration, purification, and empowerment.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we can remember those 3. I, inspiration, empowerment,
purification.
So IPE.
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 Okay. Anyone else?
Well, I like a similar point to that Vijay Mataji said, text 10, and how you further said, it's very easy to accept Krishna's mercy when things going in our way, the way we define as good or up or like desirable. But when things are difficult, when we see like devotees example who are very devoted to Prabhupada, but in the material way we define, okay, Krishna gives them so much challenging. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt that devotee. Don't doubt Krishna. But think of what can we learn from and how can we serve.
Yes.
I feel that's huge for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else?
Yes, I like the point that we should choose our master instead of the material nature. We should choose Krishna because anyway we are controlled either by material nature.
Yeah, we are puppets, so we have to just choose a puppet master rightly. That's very nice. Thank you. Okay, remaining devotees, are you back?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I like the point where there is a vacuum in our heart in the shape of Krishna and we have to fill it with Krishna. That's wonderful.
Yes, only Krishna can actually fit into that space. Like that's what we are looking for, lifetime after lifetime. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, everything is good in Bhagavatam. I mean, this is ripened fruit, but everything is good. But the main thing is whatever we did, like mistake, but we have to accept that mistake. That is the main thing.
Okay, we have to accept our mistake and see what we learn, not be discouraged by that, and continue our path. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I like the point that we should see Krishna's mercy in every situation, both good and bad.
Yeah, thank you. This theme will come again and again in Bhagavatam, repeatedly. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Any quick sharing?
Yeah, Prabhu, I like the point where you mentioned we should not justify the mistake, but we should also not denigrate the person for making that mistake.
Accidental mistake, yes, yes. Very important point. Prabhupada, like in the 3rd canto, 12th chapter, Prabhupada elaborates this more in the purpose. I'd like to read more about this. Okay, so should we continue? So text 20 now, right? Yeah. So up to this point, like Narad Muni, he actually had the vision, every sense enlivened, and then the vision disappeared. He again tried to do the same thing what he did, but still he could not get the vision. Dissatisfied, very much agree what happened. Why I cannot see the form again? Why? He's in that mood. Okay. Text 20.
Evam yatantam vijane mam aha gocharo giram gambhira shlakshnaya vacha shucha parshamayan niva.
Who's next on the list?
Seeing my attempts in the lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with the gravity and pleasing words just to mitigate my grief.
So when he was in that mood of like feeling, why can I not see the form of the Lord again? I'm trying my best. I'm putting all my efforts. At that time, the Lord actually is described as agocharaha. Agocharaha means one who is beyond the range of physical sound. And this is actually important, that when we are, I was going to make the point earlier, that when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, right? You said the alphabet, Ha, Re, Krishna. And then we actually make that point that how the Lord is Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhave Grayam Indriya. By our material senses, when we are chanting the name of the Lord, how will the Lord be attracted? So that's why the word agocharaha means he's beyond the range of physical sound. Though the Maha Mantra is potent, but it's coming out from the lips of a contaminated jiva. But when we actually chant that Maha Mantra with that mood of prayer, then that prayer, that bhakti, which is actually transcendental, that actually reaches the Lord. And then that purity in the chanting actually comes. So that's an important point. So agocharaha means even like you can say, describe so many, like glorify the Lord. Oh Lord, you're this, and say this prayer, but still the Lord is actually beyond the range of prayers. It is actually the bhakti that comes with the prayers that is what attracts the Lord. Right? So only bhakti can actually attract the Lord. Okay? So agochara is said, like who's transcendental to all mundane description. He spoke. And how did the Lord speak? So Narad Muni you can, in your mind think about Narad Muni's state, like, so where is the Lord? Where is the Lord? And then he heard this voice, and a voice with gravity and pleasing words. The Lord is actually speaking just to mitigate the grief that Narad Muni is actually experiencing. So Prabhupada actually in the purport, he makes a point that how, by our senses, because our senses are no material contaminated, we cannot experience the Lord. The taste in chanting, the experiences we have in Krishna consciousness, our senses are contaminated. How can we experience something completely pure, completely spiritual with a contaminated? But the Lord actually gives such token gifts for us, right? And then I'm sure you all have this experience that we have some people who, like, first time they come to Krishna consciousness, especially in the initial days, we see this more. They come and then, like, I have experienced like people coming and the first kirtan they attend and they're like, oh, this is the best kirtan ever. This is the best taste. And they are just like, relishing. And then we may be practicing for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And we're like, how come that person is like, he just came today, he's getting so much taste. Why I'm not getting that taste, right? So Krishna, especially in the initial stage, he gives that gift. So Prabhupada makes the point. And Narad Muni at this stage, though he has still the material body, Krishna is giving that special gift of that darshan to Narad Muni. Like how in Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter, Krishna, when Arjun asks Krishna, then please show me your, Virat Rupa. Then what does Krishna say? I will give you divine eyes. And then you can see. With your material eyes, you cannot see. Right? So similarly, with our material senses, we cannot experience the Lord, but still we get that experience. So any experience that we're getting in bhakti of the Lord himself, that we can take. This is the special gift the Lord is actually giving us. So Narad Muni having that darshan of the Lord is a special gift by the Lord himself to Narad Muni. Right? And then the question was, one of the questions that was asked, then what does it mean, probationary stage of regulative devotional service? Sentences. It is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of devotional service. What does probation mean? Like, sometimes you get a job, they say first 6 months, probation. What does it mean? The first 6 months, we will see how you are doing. And based on that, we'll decide whether we'll give you an offer or we'll give you a pink slip. Okay, over. Bye-bye. So similarly, the proper sentence is so beautiful. Probationary stage of regulative devotion service. So we are doing the sadhana bhakti, but this is like the probationary stage. This is when Krishna is Guru and Krishna is seeing how are we doing in this stage, and based on how we are doing, then based on that Krishna will give us the next stage of Raganuga bhakti, or he'll give us the special taste of bhakti or the special gift that he actually gave. Right? So probationary stage. So we can remember that our bhakti right now is a stage of probation. Krishna is always watching us. Guru is watching us. Devotees are watching us. So that's. Okay, and then the last sentence is beautiful. A devotee in love with God feels always pangs of separation and is therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. The more we experience bhakti, the more we'll feel separation from Krishna. Like any taste we get in a devotional service, that actually increases our separation from Krishna. Like, oh, I got that taste, I want that taste again. And that separation is what is actually purifying us. That hankering for Krishna is what is actually purifying us, getting us closer to Krishna, right? So, yeah, the more we taste bhakti, the more we will actually feel separation from Krishna. Right? And, so that's the point. So Narad Muni, he had this form of the Lord and ecstasy and tears, and then it was the separation that was feeling. Oh, why cannot I see? You're seeing something on Zoom, we have video and audio, all of a sudden, video goes away. You cannot see. Is that person there or not there? And then just audio comes up. Like, okay, at least the audio, now I can hear the Lord. So similarly, like his video of the Lord ended, and now only the audio was coming, right? But the audio was with gravity and with pleasing words. Okay. So next verse.
Antasmin janmani bhavan mamam drashtum iharhati avipakva kashayanam durdarshoham kuyoginam.
Okay. Translation.
O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me.
The material things, finally that question. So what Narad Muni actually experienced from that Vaidhi sadhana, like the entire form of the Lord, and then what his experience was, like he experienced the sweetness of the Lord. We said that he could, with the nose, he was smelling the fragrance of the Lord. He saw the eyes, we saw the beauty, and he, with the ears, he was hearing the ankle bell. That was Narad Muni's bhakti experience of the Lord arising from Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Okay? Now, the next thing, the complete experience of the Lord can be actually obtained when one actually attains a spiritual body, a Siddha Deha. Right? So the Lord is actually taking Narada. Yes, through sadhana bhakti in your particular material body, you are getting a taste. But that is not the complete. I want to give you the complete thing, which you can attain only through your Siddha Deha or your spiritual body. Okay. So, so here, okay, so let's come to the point. So I regret that during this lifetime, you'll not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service. So main point is saying, Narad Muni, yes, you actually came to a stage of prema, but that prema is not the complete stage of prema. Like Chakravarti Pad is actually explaining this, and he says that the stage of prema that Narad Muni is actually experiencing, get that point, yeah. So, so it is like kind of an infant stage of prema that he's having in his son. Like infant, like an infant means a small baby, right? So infant stage of prema he's actually experiencing in the sadhana deha or sadhaka body. And to from that stage, the Lord wants him to experience the youthful stage of prema, from infant stage to youthful stage of prema in his Siddha Deha. That is the thing that the Lord wants Narad Muni to experience. And for that, he actually showed Narad Muni, given that one darshan, and he said, with that one darshan, now you have the darshan, now you're going to long for it. You're going to really like, I want to see that Lord again, I want to see that Lord again. And that longing for the Lord, that separation from the Lord is going to take you from that infant stage of prema to the youthful stage of prema. Right? So we have to understand that how in the previous chapter, we already said that Narad Muni has attained the stage of prema by repeatedly hearing. But that prema is kind of a beginning stage of prema. But the Lord wants to take him to the youthful stage of prema. Okay. Now why is the Lord saying that those who are not completely free from all material things can hardly see me? Right? So Chakravarti Pad is actually making the point that here it is, and the question also was interesting. When I saw that question, I was like, why did they ask that question about Narad Muni's taints? Because Chakravarti Pad is actually saying that Narad Muni has no material desire. Even Prabhupada in the purport, either this verse or the next verse in the purport, Prabhupada clearly says that Narad Muni has no material. Okay, next purport, 22, you see the end. There was no material desire in Narad Muni, right? So Krishna is actually making the point. He is making more of a general statement that those who are incomplete in their service, not completely free from material taints, can hardly see the Lord. And that point about material taints is not applicable to Narad Muni. This Chakravarti Pad is clearly making that point, that as such, in Narad Muni, there is no material contamination. So why the Lord is actually given one darshan and then not given the darshan? To actually increase the longing of Narad Muni, to increase the entire desire, intense desire of Narad Muni for Lord Krishna. Right? To take him from the stage of infant prema to youthful prema. So when I saw that question, I was like, okay, let's see what the students are going to answer. But Prabhupada is clearly saying there's no material desires in Narad Muni. Now, in this purport, Prabhupada also makes the point that how Narad Muni actually went to the forest, and forest is a mode of goodness, But more powerful than that is one needs to come to a transcendental stage. So one should actually reside in a holy dham, or where the Lord is actually worshipped. And hence in the purport, Prabhupada says, devotional service begins from the process of archana. When we are actually engaged in directly seeing the form of the Lord, worshipping the form of the Lord, directly connecting with the form of the Lord, that, as Prabhupada says, a neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship with the deity form of the Lord, rather than to go to the forest. So rather than going to the forest, it's mode of goodness, right? City is mode of passion, mode of ignorance, so much happening. Certainly, forest is a level above mode of goodness. But beyond that, one needs to come and reside in a holy place. And that's why I was reading, like we had this one course I'm taking, in that they were showing, they were quoting so many Prabhupada's quotes where he said, Prabhupada said that we want every member of Krishna consciousness to make their house a temple of the Lord. Every house is a temple of Krishna. So how many temples we have in North Karna should be how many houses or devotee houses we have in North Karna. So, okay. So let's see if this point is clear. Let's see if there are questions on this point of material things. Why Krishna is actually using that material things, and what stage Krishna is actually, and why Krishna actually gave that one darshan and then he stopped that darshan. Okay, would someone like to, any questions, or I want to, because there are so many people asking this point, I want to make sure that you are satisfied with the answer, and then you can proceed.
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Yeah.
are you saying that there is no material in Naradji?
Yeah, Prabhupada is clearly saying in the purport, in next purport 22, there was no material desire in Narad Muni, last sentence. But just to increase the intense desire for the Lord, he was so advised this entire episode.
When I was reading the purport to answer this question, initially I thought, there is no answer. But when I read again and again, it felt like mode of goodness is also considered a material tinge. So, and to be completely freed from all material tinges is to become free from the mode of goodness also. And since Naradji is now in the forest searching for God, that is in the mode of goodness.
So, when you read that purport, I can see how you come to the conclusion that, yes, mode of goodness, what point you said is completely true. It is still material, though it is the best of the three modes, still material. So that is the contamination, and one has to rise above that mode, right? But we cannot say that Narad Muni is in the mode of goodness, because in the previous chapter we have already read that he's come to the stage of prema.
Then how can he be under the modes of material?
Modes of material nature. And then also we read that previously, how when he got the darshan of the Lord, all material ingredients are over, right? And then also like how the verse tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha jayase, one gets free from all the contaminations of the modes. So it
Okay,
is,
Pra-
and
I
Chakravarti
al-
really makes that point. He stresses on this point that how this is not applicable to Narad Muni about the material things. I will read that sentence. Someone else was saying something.
Prabhuji, this is a question I had too, but it became very clear now. Because if he had a material taint, then Lord would not have appeared, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly. That's the
because
point.
he was wandering through the forest, and if that is considered to be a taint, then how did the Lord appear? So I was confused. Thank you, Prabhu, for explaining.
So Chakravarti, I'll read the sentence from his commentary. This statement does not actually apply to Narada, since he did not have any material desire, being at the level of prema already. This is direct words of Chakravarti.
And that too, he is a kid, right? So if he is like 50 years like me, then he would have accrued so many desires. But this guy is small, like 5 years. He doesn't know anything about any sense gratification, right? So the chances to have the material time is very less. Probability is less.
Well, that point, like, from previous lifetime, we still could have material desire. Right? That age is not as such a, defining of a material desire, because previous lifetime, someone could have like unlimited material desire. Someone could be born with some purification, so it could be less. So that point is there. But here, yes, the point is that he did not have material desire. And also, Chakravarti is actually making one more point. That the Lord is actually saying this to Narad Muni to increase the humility of Narada, to make Narad Muni more humble. So giving that humility at the same time actually increase his hankering that, okay, now Krishna, I want you, I want you, I want you. That kind of hankering is what is actually going to take us to a higher stage in our Krishna consciousness. So even now, practically in our devotional life, we should, when we are experiencing these nice association, we go to Sadhu Sangha or we go to the Dham, we have this nice experience, should be longing for these experiences. When will I again be in the association of devotees? When will I again connect with devotees? When will I again be in the kirtan? And that longing is actually beautiful. Okay, Rohin Prabhu. I know we are a little out of time, but this point is important.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, my question was, so here Narad Muni attained prema through Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, but in that previous purport, we also read that the touch of the Lord cannot be experienced within that probationary stage. So that is the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, right? So how did Narad Muni attain prema just following Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, not Raganuga at all?
Well, actually, attaining Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is a mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
Where we are following the Ragatmika Bhaktas. But if you consider general, now we are in a special blessing period. But if you consider general, people do Vaidhi and they get that attain prema to Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha-nath, right? In a lot of Vaikuntha. So even Vaidhi Bhakti, one can reach perfection. It's not one has to go to Raganuga. Raganuga is a special mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
But I think this, I think Vaidhi can only probably take one to like Shanta Bhav, right? I think, or not the other.
Not the three, the top three.
Top three. Okay.
Not the top three.
Dasya and Shanta can
be. Okay, so it's 9:30. I'll go through a few more verses. It's not so much more to explain, but this was the main theme about, okay, why did the Lord give him one darshan and why did he disappear? Just to increase that hankering of Narada and the importance of that separation, the importance of that hankering for the Lord. You can meditate on this point in our spiritual life. The more we hanker for the devotee association, more we hanker for kirtan, more we hanker for seva. Like I was talking to one devotee and saying, like, I had this weekly seva every week, going to the temple and doing this DT dressing. And then some schedule changed, and then I don't have. And he was lamenting it so much. And I was making the point that lamentation is actually so purifying. And Krishna will bless you with another form of service, but maybe, but the lamentation is so purifying. Oh, Krishna, why? I'm so sinful. Give me a chance. Once more, give me a chance. I want to serve you. That's a mood of bhakti. Okay, so let's continue. 22.
Sakridya darshitam rupam etat kamaya te naga matkama shanakai sadhu sarvan munchati richayan.
O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires.
Right. So Krishna is saying that this process of hankering for the Lord is actually going to purify our consciousness, purify our. And Krishna is saying, once I have shown you, and by that once that darshan, you will actually want to see it again. And the same in our practical devotional life also. We get somehow we get this taste. Krishna gives a special gift. We're chanting Hare Krishna. And oh, so sweet. And then again we don't get it, and then we hanker for that. And then hanker for that. And that hankering is what is actually helping us get free from material desires and progress in our spiritual life. Okay. Next 23. So I'm going to, since it's 9:30, I'm going to go quickly through the rest of the verses. And, if there's any question, you can ask. But as such, like the purports are also like straightforward. I'll just mention a point if it's required, but we can go a little faster now. Next 5, 6 minutes.
Tatsevaya dirgayapi jatamai dridamatihi hitva vadyam imam lokam gantamaj janatamasi.
Okay, the Lord is continuing to speak to Narad Muni. Go ahead.
Satsevaya dirghayapi jatamai dhrudamatihi hitva vadyamimam lokam gantamajjanatamasi. By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains a firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds.
And so Prabhupada in the purport is saying that by that service of the absolute truth refers to Narad Muni's service to those Bhakti Vedantas. Even that little bit of service, right? Even for a few days that he have actually a devotee attains that firm and fixed intelligence in me. And then it actually uses the word Maj Janatam. You become my Jana. My Jana means my own people. You can actually become an associate of the Lord in the spiritual world. Okay. 24.
Matirmayeni badyeyam na vipadyeta kahichit praja sarga nirodepi smritishcha mad anugrahat.
Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation, as well as at the time of annihilation. Your remembrance will continue by my mercy.
So this is the answer to the 4th question. Right? How do you remember? Here is the answer. Krishna himself is saying, even at the time of creation and annihilation, you will always have that smriti. Smriti is what the word you use. Smriti is you'll always remember, remember me by my mercy, by the mercy of the Lord. Okay. 24 or 25.
Etavarupo pararamatan mahad bhutam nabolingam alingam ishvaram aham chatasmai mahatam mahayashise srishnavanan vidadhe nikampitaha.
Who's next? Please quickly go ahead.
Vijay Mataji.
Thus, that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head.
Right, so clear. After giving the darshan, then he disappeared. He spoke, and then now he stopped speaking. And then what was Narad Muni's? Here it says personified by sound, Nabha Lingam. Right, so it is the sound of the Lord. So it was the Lord himself appear in the form of sound. Right, that is like the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the Vedas. It's all actually the sound of the Lord. Right, sound manifestation of the Lord. And then he actually he stopped speaking. So even that sound incarnation actually disappeared. But he felt, and then Narad Muni was feeling a gratitude. He offered obeisances. And then what did he do? Right, again we are seeing now what did Narad Muni do? Right. So to increase that, to actually come to the infant prema, to the youthful prema, what did Narad Muni do? 26, that's an important verse. Okay. Go ahead.
Namanyanantasya hatatra papatan guyani bhadrani kritani chasmaran Gamparyatam stushtamanagatas priyaha kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsaraha.
So every word of this verse is so beautiful. Okay, so you can go through word to word meaning. Let's read the translation.
Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious.
Right, so Namani Anantasya. So he started chanting the holy name of the Lord by repeatedly recitation, right? So again, that for the point of repeatedly recitation, Pathan is there, right? Again, what is the two aspects of bhakti? Continuously and repeatedly, right? Again, we have to keep doing this. Remembering and such chanting and remembering of the transcendent pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. Right? And then Tushtamana, fully satisfied, Gataspraha, completely free from material desires, and then Vimadaha, without being proud, Vimatsaraha, without being envious. So this is what the process of bhakti. It is so beautiful. Prabhupada said in the purport, this is the life of a sincere devotee is explained in a nutshell. This is what we are supposed to do. In a nutshell, this is our formula. Continuously chanting the glories of the Lord and how we should do it. In a humble state, unenvious state, fully satisfied, and these having that conviction that this is the ultimate benediction. Okay. So here it says the only business is to chant and remember the holy name, form, and pastimes of the Lord according to personal capacity. We distribute it all over the world. The question was there about the one desire. Yes, our desire is to go back home, back to God. Right? That's where we came from. That's where our Back to God is the name of the magazine. But that desire is actually desire. Why do we want to go back home, back to God? To serve the Lord. Now, if that service is, if the Lord wants us to do that service here in this material world, it's okay, we'll serve. The desire to go back home, back to God, that is not just the desire of us getting free from the troubles of this material world. That means our heart is not completely purified. Our desire to go back home, back to God, is to be with Krishna, to serve Krishna, to associate with Krishna. And if Krishna wants that association, that service is here in the material world, okay, we'll do that. And that's why some senior devotees this way, oh yeah, I'll go to hellish planets, I'll preach Krishna consciousness. Right? But the point is that we want to go back home, back to God, to serve the Lord. Yes. Okay, so I think we'll have to stop because it's fine. But the remaining, I'll just summarize the remaining story as it continues. And that after this entire, he repeatedly chanted the name of the Lord. Then what happened? Then he actually met with death. And how did he meet with death? Lightning and illumination, how they occur simultaneously. He gave up his material body and immediately, simultaneously, he got a spiritual body. Both of them occurred at the same time. How beautiful, this is actually how at some day, by the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas, we actually get a spiritual body, like immediately that transformation will happen, right? We get a spiritual, so that's how he got the spiritual body. And then after he got the spiritual body, then he became the associate of the Lord. And then it is described, that how, so this was previous day of Brahma, right? So this was previous day of Brahma. Then when the day of Brahma ended, right? Then he actually he entered into the body of the Lord along with Brahma. And next day morning, when Brahma woke up, then when Brahma, like all the rishis were actually created at the time, even Narad Muni was created. So there are some few important points here which I will summarize in like another 15-20 minutes class I will give. But just to give an overview, and then after it is said how Narad Muni became a liberated spaceman. He started traveling all over. He could travel through the spiritual worlds and the three planetary systems, the three planets, everywhere he could go. He got a visa to go anywhere. Right? Vaikuntha, he can go, all the spiritual world, everywhere he can go. And everywhere he's going, he's actually chanting the glories of the Lord with his veena. And that veena is personally gifted by the Lord. That purpose is very nice. That the sound of the veena is completely transcendental. It's a gift by the Lord, right? It's not something material, completely transcendental. And using that veena, he's always chanting the glories of the Lord, and he's making all people into devotees of the Lord. So one verse in Bhagavad Ratnamala, which is memorized from this chapter, is text 34. Etadhi atura chittana matra sparshaschayamu bhava sindo plavo drishta hari charyanu vandana. So this is a verse for memorizing. Very nice. It is similar to Bhagavad Gita 5:22. Yam hi yehi sansparsha jab hoga dukkha yana eyote adivanta konte na teshu ramate buddhaha. So Narad Muni is telling by his own experience, so no other proof is required, that as long as we are associating our senses with our material sense objects, there will be suffering. But the best way to actually get free is take to the boat of Hari Charyanu Vardhana. Okay, and that's it. And then it ends with all glories to Narad Muni for his wonderful devotion to Lord Krishna. Okay, let's stop here. Sorry, okay. So we'll end here. It's 9:45. So thank you all so much for your kind association. I hope the chapter was good. It's beautiful. The section is so wonderful. So thank you all so much for your association. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripasamudebhyo patinam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. So I will do another like my 15-20 minutes recording just for the last part. Some few key points I would like to point out. Okay, so those who have to leave can leave. I know Sunday and people may have other commitments, but if you want to stay and if you want to quickly share one point that you liked from the reading, you're welcome to share. If you want to leave, that's fine. Okay. So first we'll take some sharing and then we'll take some questions. But if you want to leave, that's not totally understand.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah, in the 21 text it says those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material trains can hardly see me. The Lord himself says that.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful, Mati. That's a realization or is that a question?
Actually, I'm trying to. Thank you. No, it's a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the point that I mentioned.
Yes.
We, from our particular, in our current body senses, we cannot see the Lord. It is completely inferior energy, material body, contaminated consciousness. But the Lord mercifully gives that special token gifts to us so that we can actually progress.
Yes.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Okay. Any other comments before we go take any questions? Again, your drop out this. Go ahead. Right.
Yeah, I like the point in text 22. The more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed. And it reminds me of that verse from chapter 2, like, in 1-17, Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna. In that also, like, it's when I read the translation, when you just develop the urge to hear the messages, then so just the urge, like he hasn't even started the hearing, just the urge and just the hanker to see the Lord. They both,
Actually,
beautiful.
it's a good point you brought up, that point of desire, developing the desire to hear. Even today, if you remember in the second one, when we read Sadharma Pricha, what does Prabhupada say? The desire to ask questions to the spiritual master.
Yeah.
That inquisitiveness. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Nice correlation. Okay. Anything else? I just want to see that.
I will, Prabhu, you also said that
desire to inquire from the spiritual master. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
You also said in the first chapter when we were reading the Shushrushavish word, throughout the Bhagavatam we have the significance of the desiring, the urge, desiring to. Also, it is very evident from when Krishna left in the rasa dance. He also says that verse in there, that how I left it to increase your hankering. That is different. What is his agenda? But I really like the point of view when you said that this was a climax for the past 2.5 months when you said Radhanuga is Lord Chaitanya's gift only. Thank you for that statement.
Yeah. Thank you, Mati. The first point you said was yeah, sure. No, I just some point into my mind. Yeah, thank you, Mati. Okay.
Prabhu, I also like the same point, Rohinathan. and my daddy just shared how is the more hankering and how to develop that hankering is in the same Prabhupada says the more person is engaged in the transcendental loving service to the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it.
Yes,
So I
yes.
feel like that's the recipe to develop that hankering, whether it's the actual practice, physical service, or in the service of chanting or reading. And one last one, I had a question, but also like a comment, is the text in the purport text 26, how it says, pure devotees have no desire for material gain and they only desire to go back to Godhead. And you said they're at such elevated stage, they go back to Godhead to serve wherever Krishna wants them to serve. It doesn't, if Krishna wants them to serve in hell, they will go. I was just thinking such an elevated and pure stage, and sometimes I feel like, how do you, of course I have no qualification at all, but also sometimes how do you develop that type of elevated stage where how do you develop that much compassion to able to think of others before myself, and then to truly, I'm not saying that but I just want to ask, how do those type of devotion is granted by Krishna out of his cosmic mercy, or that's how much endeavor we can do from our side that to bring us closer to that stage?
Prabhuji, I had the same questions as Domi had, so I will just add it to Domi's question and then you can answer. You have time. So Prabhuji, we want to go back to Golok Vrindavan to see Krishna and to serve Krishna. So when when we say that we go anywhere to serve Krishna, if Krishna wants that, but then we will not be able to see Krishna. So is it that the pure devotees, because they see Krishna everywhere, that's why they can go anywhere? Thank you so much.
Yeah. So first point is, how do we develop that desire? As we progress in our devotional service, the natural characteristic or quality that we develop is a mood of compassion. It is just simultaneous, because as we are developing our connection with Krishna, we are feeling that, oh, all these living entities, they also have a relationship with Krishna, and it is actually Krishna's desire that all these living entities come back to him. Like how we have in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this personality Vasudeva Dutt, he's actually praying, oh Krishna, give me all the sinful reactions of all the people of the world so that they can come back to you, and let me stay here in this material world. Imagine that level of compassion. So as we progress in our spiritual life, the compassion is just a natural consequence of our devotion to the Lord. Like, why did Prabhupada actually leave that Vrindavan, that he was in the spiritual world, Vrindavan, that Radha Damodar temple is considered as the hub, the center of the spiritual world. Why did he leave that to come to the West? Just because of that mood of compassion for all the living. So when that mood of devotion comes to that particular stage, such elevated devotion, then you feel that, Krishna, okay, so this also answers Vijaya Mata's question, that we cannot see Krishna. Well, a devotee always sees Krishna. And then in one of the purports in this chapter, Prabhupada actually makes the point that hearing about Krishna is identical to seeing Krishna. So even though one may say that, oh, a devotee is here, he's in the material world, he cannot see Krishna, but he's always hearing Krishna, he's chanting Krishna's glories, and by that he is directly in contact with Krishna. It is not that one has to directly see Krishna to be with Krishna, but hearing, chanting, one is directly connected with Krishna. Right? So anywhere, wherever a person goes, like at that level, for us, our desire should be go back home, back to God. Until we develop that level of compassion where Krishna himself inspires. Okay, you are at such an elevated state, maybe you can stay and bring some souls back to me. But that is in our desire to be back to God. We want to go back home because we have so many material contamination, there's so much risk in this material world. we don't want to again take the risk. Krishna, we want to come back to you so that we can serve you. Right? So how do we develop that compassion? Well, it will be a consequence of us progressing in our path of bhakti. And we associate with such devotees who have that desire, then we'll progress in our bhakti, and that will come later on. It's not something that we can artificially aspire for at the beginning stages of bhakti. Is that okay? Domi and Vijayana.
Thank you.
So those have to leave, please. So they can.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Vijaya.
So I was, the word agochara, where it says beyond the range of the physical sound. And, I mean, we only know about the ultra and infrasound now, but it's already mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And it's also like a Lord is speaking to so many, maybe now, even now he's speaking to so many pure devotees, and we cannot hear it because it is agochara. That was very amazing for me.
Oh, nice point. And one more point I missed out, I'll mention in my summary about the spiritual television in the core of the heart. And that point is so beautiful. I missed out in mentioning the point. Yeah. Thank you, Mati. Mantri.
Prabhu, my question was how to get free from the mode of goodness.
Oh, yeah, you had asked earlier also, right? How do we get free from mode? By engaging in devotional service. Like Bhagavad Gita in 14th chapter, Krishna says towards the end of the 14th chapter, Mam cho yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samuteta and brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who actually engages in unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service, like basically the pure devotional service. Because that devotional service has the potency to lift us beyond the modes of material nature, so then there is no question of a contamination of the mode of material nature. So how can we go beyond the mode of goodness? Bhakti is transcendental to all the three modes. So if we are always engaged in that pure bhakti, then there is no question of the modes. How can there be any material contamination in that pure transcendental bhakti? So 14th chapter, the end of the chapter, Krishna is clearly saying, Mam cho yo vyabhicharena. If you engage in that vyabhichari, the unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to Krishna, Mam, then one actually gets above the three modes of material nature, even beyond the mode of goodness. It's okay.
Yeah. One more thing.
The main point, I'll make one more point here. The main, like we are, right now in our sadhana bhakti, we want to get free of the modes of passion and ignorance. That is our first focus. We live a life in the mode of goodness because that is very favorable to our devotional service. So we should cultivate the lifestyle of a mode of goodness. And that's why in Bhagavad Gita, from 14th chapter all the way till 18th chapter, Krishna is repeatedly explaining different qualities in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, because he wants us to come to a level of goodness, because passion and ignorance binds us down into the material world. But goodness is a good platform where we can take off from that. Right? So we have to cultivate the mode of goodness, and by engaging bhakti in that mode, then the bhakti itself will take about that mode also.
Okay, I was also thinking one more thing, that Lord gave a special causeless mercy to Narad. It was a special gift for Narad, Prabhupada said. I was thinking why Krishna gave his causeless mercy to Narada.
Why he gave it to Narada? Because he wanted Narada to come back to him, to actually experience that youthful prema state. See, the Lord is the, what is the point that we read? The Lord is the, okay. The Lord is actually the, he is always looking for the benediction of the devotee. So Lord wants us back to him more than even we aspire, right? So the Lord knows exactly what is required for the devotee so that he can actually come back to earth. Sri Chakravarti Pad makes this point in one of the purpose. I'll have to search that one of the explanations in this chapter. He says, the Lord is the one who knows how to bring the devotee back to him. And for that, he will actually do different things for different devotees. So for Narada, what was required was that one glance, one darshan. And that darshan will create that hankering in the heart of Narad Muni, that he will actually say, okay, now I want that. And then when he chants and he repeatedly is engaged in chanting and hearing of Krishna Katha, then with that mood of hankering, then he will actually come to the highest platform. So Lord knows perfectly how to actually bring a devotee back. Right? So the common factor is the Lord's desire to bring us back to God. How that desire is manifested will be different for different devotees.
Yeah, thank you. And causeless means no reason. Causeless means there is no reason for his special mercy.
For his special mercy, yeah. The bhakti is causeless, and so Lord is not impartial. He wants everyone to come back home, back to God. But based on the inclination of the devotee, he reciprocates accordingly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
Prabhuji, it's 10 o'clock. If you're getting late, I can ask the question in the evening.
And I'm happy you all are staying. Like I'm okay. I can take.
Okay. So Prabhuji, I understand that the bhakti can be ahituki, unmotivated, but this is 127 verse, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I was thinking, how can the knowledge be ahituki, causeless? What is the meaning of causeless knowledge in that we read in 127?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good question. Actually, the point is that the knowledge is not the knowledge which is actually obtained from the mental speculation, the process of jnana.
Okay.
And the knowledge is causeless in the sense that when we are engaging in bhakti, Krishna reveals the knowledge in the core of our heart, right? We know that Tesham Sata Yuktam Bhajatam Priti Purvam Dadami Buddhi Yogam. Krishna gives that knowledge. But when does that knowledge come? How does that knowledge come? This is totally causeless, just like bhakti. So it is talking of not the Gyan knowledge, but that that knowledge which Krishna is giving in the core of the heart, and that is just like bhakti. It is independent when it will actually appear in the core of our heart. This is causeless in that way.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So we'll stop here. So thank you all so much. It's so nice to see you're still staying and relishing Bhagavatam. So thank you all so much for your association. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Gurudevcha, Kripa Sindhu Bhayavcha, Patitanam Pavanito, Vaishnavevcha. Thank you all so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam.